Hello. How's it going? How's it going?
Good. Remember to turn that thing off.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So, anyways, it's good to see you as always, and
Yeah.
I know you've been busy, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, sorry it's so late compared to when we booked, but
Well,
it's
it
been
happens.
quite the morning.
Yeah, I bet. Dealing with children is always a learning task.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Just when you think you got a handle on it, something else goes on.
Right. I've never had kids, but I've actually, as I told you before, worked in an inner city youth kind of a program thing for kids and stuff in California, Southern California. So, because I told you I first went to be a Christian counselor,
Right.
but then I turned atheist in college, learning stuff, and thinking more, and so, but then because of thinking more, I also didn't just because I also, in a sense, my whole political, not to go real quick, but my whole political thing changed for everybody. And I went from a rightist, gay hating, not really that much of a feminist, and really just, anyways, not a great person. But all of a sudden, once I wasn't a Christian and I couldn't get forgiven, like this
Yeah.
rule of ethical laws for me, my first thought was, okay, God's not real. And then the second thought was, okay, how do I live my life?
Yeah.
For me, that's also why, like we've talked about before, I have a real hard time with people who are both conservative, capitalist and atheist. And like,
Right. Yeah.
Seriously?
It does seem like these things kind of connect, right? And if you give up one, like maybe you should give up the others.
But I understand. That's why I also make a distinction always and often for multiple reasons. One, I say I'm an axiological atheist. So people do not just lump me with, say, anybody.
Right.
And people, I know people, a lot of people, especially philosophers, they may not know of the term axiology, but they've heard the term axiom. These are not the same word.
Right.
They absolutely have nothing to do with each other. So a lot of people go, yeah, I understand axioms. I'm like, okay, then you don't understand axiology.
Right.
I mean, in a little point you do, because it's about how to build value and stuff and grasp value, which you have to be able to build it and understand it and contemplate it and stuff. So you need to, in a sense, often go to the beginning axiom. What did you start everything on? Because I need to make sure the foundation, right, of everything is good.
Right.
I mean, so, but you get, it's a value desire for accuracy that makes me, in a sense, utilize the philosophy of axioms, not because axioms relate to axiology, in a sense. Axiology means the study of value. That's what it means. So this is, well, we'll have a whole show on it, believe me.
Right.
We'll do some philosophy first so people can grasp like how I think, and then I'll explain why, the axiology, the value, the ending result.
Okay.
But I just right now just explain. So everything changed for me. So just like I planned on our next show after this was going to be China, and then but I was watching the news and the people started talking just some, they often do. Don't get me wrong. It's just once in a while they say shit and I'm watching going, am I in fucking bizarro world?
Yeah.
Is this like a prank? I hear them saying masculinity and just talking endless nonsense. I made a blog about it. I was so mad, but my wife kept saying, quit talking about it. I go, I can't help it. She goes, talk to Corey. He cares about you. I know it's bullshit. I'm like, it just pisses me off when I see it on public fucking news. And then there's another, so the one, just so people know, and I have a blog. I'll put it in the thing because I said, what is this stupidity you call masculinity? I'm not against masculinity, just so you know. Nothing in the whole blog actually is against masculinity.
Of course not.
Just so people grasp it. I mean, me personally, I don't really care about masculinity. I don't care if people think I'm feminine, masculine. That means zero to me. So, and I don't strive for masculinity. So, whatever. If people think, oh, you don't make it, like, oh, well, that's fine because I wasn't trying.
Right.
But my point is that's my own personal feelings about myself and how I whatever am. That has nothing to do with not seeing that the world is varied, right?
Right. Right.
So let me just start with the first irritating thing. There is no such thing that you find sort of a scientific journal that quantifies biologically masculinity.
What exactly? Yeah.
There's nothing. Okay, so then they go, well, there's a few studies that say that there may be some biological elements. Yeah, not attached to just men, though.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna go back. Let me back because I'm trying to keep this real short because this stuff really fucking pisses me off.
Yeah.
Because it's just so much bullshit. I'm like, oh my. Anyways, so the first thing is there's no in a sense scientific classification for masculinity.
Right. What even is it? Right.
It's 100% cultural.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
100%. You know this for multiple ways. One thing, there's not one version of masculinity.
Yeah.
Not one version of how people experience it. Even ones that say they're masculine. You could look at, like, say, a whole bunch of, all claim they're masculine. Look at them. Are they equally the same? No. So even I'm just making a comment. Even if people that feel they are whatever alpha males, are all alpha males the same? No. So I mean,
of course not.
The whole concept is just nonsense to me. It's just stupidity. What the fuck are you talking about? So first off, you should call it masculinities because there's a bunch, and you should never attach it just to males because that's bullshit. Yep. A lot of males are not masculine. In fact, the term masculine generally refers to not just the distinction of what is not feminine, but that you are the right kind of male. Lists categories of males, supposedly. But so the whole thing to me is nonsense. I'm not going to go on, like I said, there's so many things. That's why I wrote a blog, because it's impossible. And when we talk about it, we're going to do his own show because I'm going to go off.
Right.
But I just want to get people. I'm not going off because I am against men or males or being male or anything. Once again, that also is another bullshit.
Yeah.
That on the show they talk about the progressives and the leftists. Oh, I was just like.
If that's what they think, then they're not listening. They're not paying attention.
You are talking bullshit. And they say that we say all these problems of toxic masculinity, but we don't give the men any kind of solutions. And I'm like, and then she says, and saying a good people's not good enough. Oh, it isn't? It isn't. Because that's actually what I teach. I've told you before, my game is simple, Corey. If you want to boil it all down, what I want to do is be a good person.
Right.
That's it. I just feel the best way to do that is an anarchist and a socialist, but I'm just an atheist for me personally. But I'm just saying, to be a good person is the goal.
Yeah.
So I told you, but once again, why would I start with the beginning of that? Is because it's a value.
Right.
And I live my life then from that, in a sense, web of values that goes out. And so then how many of my actions are value centered? All of them. As many as I can make. See what I'm saying? Not matter if I'm having sex, matter if I'm friends, matter if I'm teaching, matter if I'm dealing with you, dealing with a person I hate. I try to be valued always.
Yeah.
Because I am an axiologist and I focus on value. But anyway, so hearing people say all this stuff, then I'm not going to go into it, but I just want to address real quick because it's so pissed me off when they said that, because I had to do, when I went to college, I also took classes on juvenile delinquency, just so people know. So I got a little bit extra training on what men or young boys do. Right. And in fact, I was a fucking holy terror when I was a boy. My first suspension for fighting was fucking kindergarten. I beat a kid and sent him to the hospital. Yeah, I've been violent my entire life. And is that what I support, Corey? No.
Nope.
I say, in fact, don't be like that. Don't be like me. Be kind. Be understanding. Be compassionate. Be caring. Those are values. I say, what should a men be? Those.
Yeah,
You
that's
know what
right.
they used to call that? I know it's crazy for her because it's so traditional. A gentleman. Huh? You know, you look at a gentleman. You know what it means? Courteous, kind, caring, thoughtful. And they act like this is a new thing. I don't know. It's been around since, I don't know, the medieval times or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
It's just, it's bullshit on top of bullshit. I mean, but that's not even the real part that pissed me off. She said a stat, which I go on in my blog and explain why it is not even a little bit bad. It's total horseshit what they're saying. So they say men, and they can't even know what masculinity is now. Do you know they're committing suicide 3 times more than women? And I'll go, yeah, and that's been happening since past or earlier than the 50s.
Right.
But maybe it's because masculinity to you. You know what? It would be great if someone actually went out and did studies of why people kill themselves. Wouldn't that be really great? And find out if it's all these young people that don't know about masculinity.
Or,
wait a minute. Is it the same by country? Because then it's a man issue, right? Or is it a cultural issue? Oh, America's worse than most other countries? I wonder why that is.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the toxic masculinity that's fucking killing them. Oh, they did a study that said that actually fragile, which America totally is, fragile masculinity is associated with higher death.
Yep.
And risky behaviors. Oh, because they're afraid they're not man enough.
Exactly.
So they constantly prove it and kill themselves.
Yeah.
So the other thing she said about the death, right? She said that men kill themselves more. Here's a fact that chick obviously didn't feel was important. Women, not males, actually experience more suicide attempts and always have way more depression, but they don't succeed at the deaths.
Yeah.
Because they often don't use guns.
Right.
In fact, Damien went and looked. And did you know that guns are not equal by state, like gun deaths for suicide? Higher suicides are associated with red states or Republican conservative
where there's
states,
more people have guns. Yeah.
The availability of guns.
Go figure.
That they can directly associate that the availability of guns and the association of which state has more deaths.
Yeah.
It's one in the South where the least deaths are New York City. Oh yeah, because it's the liberal kind of leftist area.
Right. Harsh,
right, yeah.
hard gun laws. Like, yeah.
So anyways, but it still even gets worse, like I said, because they are trying to make it like men's bad behaviors are some new thing, or somehow we don't know what masculinity is because we forgot. If you look at the cultures of history and you look at each culture, what they think is masculine is going to not be the same. Because like, say there's parts in Greece, not all Greece, that believe that sex with young boys was totally healthy and normal.
Right. Yeah. Like,
and
like that's the ancient Greece kind of thing, right?
I'm just making a point. So I'm just saying, in fact, I believe it's the Greeks, but I could be wrong, but I think it's the Greeks, had an army that was, in a sense, almost exclusively homosexual. Right. Because they felt nobody would fight better than their lover who they're protecting or whatever. They worked together as a better team, in a sense. I'm not even saying I agree or disagree with that. All I'm trying to point is that that was considered very masculine. The guy that, I don't know, conquered the world, right? Supposedly Alexander the Great. Yeah, he was at least bisexual, if not maybe just gay. Yeah. He was at least bisexual. But so that's another thing too. It goes back to this. Oh well, their type of thinking goes along with this conservative thinking. Is that, oh well, if we get gays in the military, they'll be weaker. Literally, the person who conquered the world, let me forget to remind you, was a bisexual man. So this is just absolute horseshit to me. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to go into all that.
It's the idea that like their version of what they believe traditional masculinity is somehow superior when there's no way to show that. In fact, we can show the opposite in many ways.
Well, I do show the opposite of what they're saying in many ways and explain how they're misrepresenting it.
Yeah.
They're making it sound like this is a current thing. It's been happening since they've been studying before the 50s, right? So, but somewhere around the 50s, they really started doing this test on suicide. Both boys and girls have gone like this, almost. I mean, yeah, to act like it's this new fad because of threatened mass. We need to help these boys. I'm like, I want to vomit in my mouth.
And I think it's important, like you say, like when you say, oh, well, here's the stat about like suicide rates. Well, you have to look at all the variables. You can't just say, well, it's because of masculinity. Like,
yeah, great. You bring me to my thing I forgot to say, but we're going to do a whole blog on it.
Yeah.
But because the stats. The stats. So they try to make it like, there's the solution, right? Because remember, even if we buy the stats, which they're wrong and they're misleading and they're fucked up, but even if we bought that, how did they get the solution as masculinity? See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Oh, you try to pull a fucking fast one.
Yep, that's right.
My solution is everyone should be homosexual. You're like, no, you shouldn't. Why do you think that?
Why is that different?
Yeah, but that's what you should ask for the thing. Why is the solution masculinity? Do you have any reason? Let's go look at this. That's what I was going to say. Let's go look at what research. Oh, because, people have done research, on suicide. Yep. So they went and did research on suicide. You know what they found out? It was more women. And if it's men, you know who it's men? It's 78 or like older than 55. Right. It's older men that are alone that feel, and they kill themselves. Not young boys. But
I wonder if loneliness plays a factor.
Yes, it does. So there's all these factors, but look, do you know that economic hardship, whatever, is one of them?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, guess what? Out of the 8 things they list in the research, masculinity wasn't one of them. Where did they come up with this concept that masculinity was going to solve this problem? So, I mean, it's just bullshit on top of bullshit.
Yeah. Like, actually, like, I mean, we have in Saskatchewan, there's a lot. 2 or 3 times a year, there's like a local farmer who kills himself, and everybody starts talking about why this happens, and they talk about depression, and they talk about mental health, and they talk about but often they don't get into the economic factors, like, well, what happened with his farm the year before? Like, did he lose everything last year? Did he have a good crop? Did he go into debt farther? Like, did the bank try to repossess something? Like,
capitalism kills.
Yeah, that's right. Did capitalism kill this person?
Right. Well, they really should start thinking that way, because when you say economic disparity, you're saying capitalism.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, you're not saying someone had this great socialist job and they,
Well, and on top of it, I mean, we don't have proper community support, and we don't have, like, there's so many things that go into it. Like, toxic masculinity is part of it.
well, definitely, it's a huge part of it, and I also feel with about that show, just to my ending opinion, which I didn't even put in the blog, but they were themselves active participants in toxic masculinity, both of them.
Yeah,
both the Christian the Catholic and her conservative ideas as a female, and then the white dude who is an atheist and a college professor in business and should fucking know better, but talked worst mad shit. If you watch the little video, it's only like about a couple of minutes long.
Okay.
He visibly gets angry. Like it's like if you said, children are being beaten, and you're like, what the fuck? I mean, that's how he seems. Like, he's legitimately angry. And he's like, oh, and she's so right. I'm like, she's literally not right.
And neither are you, actually.
No, you're also wrong. Look, speaking of him, but I don't want to go on about him. But let's do our show.
Sure.
I could talk all freaking day about them.
So first, we've got this video. I'll bring this up.
I know I probably talked too long, but
that's all right.
Couldn't help it, man.
No, I hear you. Okay, so we're gonna watch about 15 minutes of this video, and then we're gonna skip about 10 minutes, and then watch another bit.
Right.
Green that.
Alrighty, so this is part 1 of module 2, Conquest and Colonization. In our discussion of conquest and colonization, I do want us to talk a little bit about the indigenous people of Florida. These are, of course, the Native Americans that were here prior to Spanish conquest and even during Spanish conquest. And we need to understand a little bit more about them in order to understand why the Spanish could be considered successful or unsuccessful in terms of their mission system and their colonization process. But mostly because they are Floridians, and Florida history is about all Floridians, not just starting with
Pause.
colonization. So
Pause it real quick. Wouldn't it be great if like schools started with like when they said we're going to teach you history of the Americas? I don't know. They started at Indigenous people.
Yeah, that would almost make sense, right?
Like, why would anyone literally have a problem with that unless they're, I don't know, a fucking racist?
Yeah, that's right. It seems like that's just the rational place to start.
Yeah.
Is evidence. We have evidence today in a number of different ways. The first one we're going to talk about is the shell rings. Shell rings were elevated, basically rings of earth. Usually the foundation of them was shells, but it could also be earth. It could be whatever was plentiful at the time. And shells, of course, were plentiful because most native populations
Pause for a second.
lived near.
So shell mounds and shell rings, because they're not. He's not really showing melt. He's just saying rings, but
Yeah,
there's two different. Even like you see this one thing that it's really kind of a mound ring.
right.
Just so people, and sometimes, just so you know, some of the shell rings also have shell mounds. Like they'll have. Sometimes I'll show you some pictures. Sometimes they have multiple rings and multiple mounds. I mean, it's like a whole like religious complex. I mean, it's humongous. So it's way more involved. He's just showing you some things, and also understand that these are, 3,000 years old or something or whatever or more.
Right.
Or whatever. So I'm just saying some of these are pretty old. Wow. So they don't look, and of course, this is also after white people came and probably destroyed some of their stuff, or just so you know. So
the first settlers and lots of generations before us weren't thinking about preserving this before.
I don't think generations even now almost think that. I mean, it's pretty freaking horrid, really.
Yeah.
But I was just trying to say that this kind of stuff, just like up in your area, you have those rings too, but they're in the sense, medicine wheel kind of stuff.
Right.
So some of these are circles, complete circles. So, I mean, it's not impossible that maybe some of the, just because people understand is a lot of this stuff, you can't think of the Americas as like isolated or something. People did migrate and move and spread religion, ideas, culture, and stuff around. So I'm just trying to say that I think to me, I feel like people have an opinion because they never moved and stay in like one little small spot. That's people went thousands of miles often.
Well, like you say, like some of these are 3,000 years old. So like there's lots of movement.
I think some might be even 5,000 years old.
Right. So then there's tons of movement that go on over the time frames that exist. So,
but just think, these are probably a shared culture. You see them in the North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and some Alabama, Mississippi. I mean, the point I'm trying to say is that a lot of these cultures, we see them like borders. Once again, anarchists don't care about borders, but these people do. And borders makes things look like they're separate, and I'm telling you, they're not. So that, but because it's culture.
Yep.
River Coast, and they used seafood as their main portion of their diet. So the map in the upper left shows you all the different locations where shell rings have been found. Focusing on Florida, you see Guana, which is located along A1A between Jacksonville or Ponte Vedra and St. Augustine. There is a Guana State Park that has a shell ring, at least one that I know of. And then you got a couple up near Jacksonville as well, Rollins and then Oxeye. And then you've got others that are located in the southern part of Florida, but again, around the coast. So what did these shell rings provide? What was the purpose of them? As you can see in the picture at the bottom, it's an elevated area. So it would be, in terms of spatial relationship to the gods, you're on a higher level. So it means that people who are considered more in touch with the gods would live there. Also ceremonial buildings. So if you had, most native populations would put, if someone died, they would have a place to put their body before it was buried. And so that hut where the body was stored may be located there. You may have some sort of priest or chief that lives, that you didn't want on the basic level with everybody else. He had status, he had power, and so therefore he belonged on top of the shell ring. So it was about spatial relationships between average people and the gods. So the closer you were to the gods, the more status and more power you had, and therefore this was a way to express that. Nouns, as they're a common thing, what we most associate with native populations. And the map in the upper left, again, shows where a number of those are located. Several in the Panhandle, obviously, but more in the center part of the state, and then around Tampa.
So there's a thing, I know you may not know of it, or people that are listening may not have heard of it, but there's a thing called the Mound Builder myth. I can't remember if it was the 1900s exactly, because that kind of history I'm not as great in, but it was basically like racism. These can't have been built by Native Americans. These had to be built by white people.
Right. We may have even talked about that in a previous discussion.
We might have. I talk a lot about the mounds because I think it's really cool. And I think they're temples and stuff. Some of them are different stuff too. But yeah, I mean, because I care about religion and how it spreads around, and how it's a cultural thing, not like this thing that we just all invent.
Right.
Like language.
Yeah. Everybody just came up with it separately and on their own with no influence from outside sources.
Yeah, that's just not accurate at all.
Yeah.
So my point is, though, that there is a lot of myth or people's belief that this had to show that, or that it's aliens or something. It's just total nonsense.
Right.
And these mounds go all the way up to almost Canada, almost like up the Great Lakes or whatever. They go way up there.
Right.
It's, once again, the culture is moving around up and down, and they share a lot of similarities. But like I said, I feel that these, to me, might have come in the same time, or these similar people came in the same time than a Dane is, because after the Dane speaking peoples come in, shortly after that, these mounds start, and then they have like a more hierarchy evolved culture than any of the Native Americans that were, or most of the Native Americans, I should say, that were already here.
Oh, okay.
There's a higher hierarchy thing of like these, like the king, and the, even in a sense, the way of, like, a sense, relating to the God is supposed, like, the God only likes elites. See, because you and me, let's say if we're an anarchist, right, and we're going to choose to follow a God, it would have to at least have our values, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
It couldn't go, well, these people are better people because I think so. Right? You get my point.
Yeah, that's right.
Even like Cory's a better person than Damien. I mean, my point is, like, once again, this hierarchical thinking. And so,
so the gods somehow, they reflect the ideals or values of the culture. So
it does, like, well, because in Indo-European, most of those like religions, all of them, which are Greek and Roman and Spain and Germany and Russia and pretty much everybody else, and of Europe and England and India and Iran. Anyways, all these languages are in a sense the same, and all of them in a sense have a real hierarchical religion. In the sense that not just that the gods sometimes are above other deities, but they generally support kings, rulers, elites to be above the people.
Right.
And often they also even feel that slavery is important or whatever, not just even some of them in relation to the people on earth, but sometimes even the people, supposedly in the sky, the gods or whatever, they also have people serving them or whatever, or doing things for them. Like just, and people don't think about this, but there's a lot of art, like that will show a person in a chariot getting pulled by a driver, right? Well, literally the driver's a worker, right?
Yeah.
And the other person is just sitting on their ass, right? I mean, literally, that's what the picture generally is. And I'm just making a comment. If you, from an anarchist or my whatever, maybe other anarchists don't do this, but I certainly do. I look at shit and I'm like, that's not an equal thing,
right? Yeah,
there's an imbalance.
Yeah,
and it's not like they switch sides sometimes. Like sometimes
right
to the back. No. Anyway, so and often they even teach servitude. And so, anyways, I'm just making a comment, though, that these structures, like he was saying, people, elites, because it's not that all, in a sense, even the Dane, because once again, they also are branches that are different and interacted in different places and with different people.
Right.
And so, like, you have the ones in the Pacific Northwest that are very, very similar, almost identical, not identical, but close, looking into culture and stuff to the people up there. But then you have other Nadanes, the Navajo, down in the Pueblos, and their religion, their stuff, almost exactly matches all of the people, in a sense, in the Pueblo. But they got there very late, not very early.
Okay.
They got there very late. I think they got there I don't remember top of my head, 400, 200 years, something. I mean, not very long.
Yeah, very late.
Very late. Maybe it's later than that, but it's not over 1,000 years, I don't think. I mean, it's seriously, I think it's, like I said, a couple hundred, that's it. But anyways, my point is saying, and the other one is probably a couple thousand, the Twicket, whatever.
Right.
They're definitely one of the oldest branches of Nadane, in a sense, or the first maybe, or second. I think but my point is, and yet they're totally different. So this is, I think, I'm not saying that when someone comes in with ideas, they make everybody around them do all the same ideas.
Right.
But often when you come to a place, you pick up a bunch of ideas, but you also share your stuff too.
Yep.
So then everybody in the area starts being somewhat similar because of not one-way transfer, but two-way transfer.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yep, because social creatures influence each other.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, just to help the mound things, and I don't think that they're magical or any horse crap like that. I do not believe in aliens, as you know, and so and anyways, you can tell they're cultural. So I mean,
for sure.
Bay, a little bit further south, but again, mostly coastal, but not always, as you can see. The picture at the bottom is
pause for a second. Not coastal, but almost always related to water, whether it's a river, a lake, whether it's the ocean.
Right. So it doesn't have to be oceanside only, right?
Well, right, because remember, we see different kinds of water as distinctly different. Some, like in Mesopotamia, they call it sweet water, meaning not salty.
Oh, okay.
And then salty waters, but my point is, but the concept, if you understand this is a religious and cultural, and that's not just religious, because they're doing other stuff too, like the king and all that. But still, the king has power, kind of because of the gods. So but sometimes the people can put them in power, in a sense, by whatever means their culture does. It's not, my point is, it's not always like European where it's inherited, is all I was trying to say.
Right.
In fact, I think that the inherited one is almost not very common in the Americas. I would say, off the top of my head, I could be wrong, but I don't remember that is that strong, like, my son, whatever. No.
Oh, okay.
You get my point? Like,
I think so.
it's more, I think it's more like my family or my clan
Right.
than my,
Rather than literally my genetic offspring kind of thing.
yeah. So I'm just trying to make a comment that I'm not saying, I don't want people to get the wrong impression. I'm not saying these are exactly like even kings or something like we would think of them, you know, and they don't follow always the same structures that we think of, you know,
Right.
Europeanized concepts. They're not
Sure.
doing that. That they have their own. But all I was saying is, don't look at the differences, just look at it as hierarchy.
Right.
That's when it starts to become way clearer, like what's going on here.
Yeah. Some people
However
are still,
the hierarchy happens, I don't agree with hierarchy. So yeah. Anyways. But so as I was saying, the reason the water. So the water, I think, and like that one archaeologist we talked to, he said they think that it's about the earth diver myth. And I told you there's research that science, you know, people, you know, or whatever, scientific, whatever, or academic, I don't know exactly what their thing is, because it could have been linguistic, I don't remember. But anyways, they trace back that they think the earth diver myth comes from the ancient North Eurasians.
Okay.
So the ancient North Eurasians, we talk about a lot because they, on one side, affect, you know, some of the stuff of Asia, but they another branch, the R's, go into the Middle East and into Africa and all of Europe. And so almost everybody in Europe has R. Probably you and me have R.
Right.
I mean, I know I have R, I should say. I don't know if you do, but I'm just guessing, because if you see someone that looks kind of white and European, they probably got R.
Right.
Somewhere in their family. It may not be the only thing they have, but anyways. So that's the ancient North Eurasians. And some of the myths from the Proto-Indo-European or the ancient, you know, North Eurasian elements, you know, like later genetic, just people know it could be thousands of years, by the way.
Right.
So, I mean, sometimes I skip that point, but my point is, that's why a lot of times you'll see some of the beliefs in the Americas, you know, Canada and, you know, and America, South America, have some similarities or can to some of the European or other places in Asia, because to me, these ideas came from the high Siberia down, and that's why we're going to learn about China, went over to the Americas, and so you're seeing some of the stuff. Because 5,000 years ago, about the, you know, time, and there's some mounds earlier than that, because I know there's one in 7,000 in Canada, in Labrador.
Okay.
But anyways, but they first start in Europe about 7,000 something. Anyways, but my point is, and also the Danes probably went over between 8,000, you know, and 6,000.
Right.
I mean, the Dane-speaking peoples, I should say.
Okay.
Anyways, but my point is, so they brought in new kind of culture and technology. They did stuff a little different. But I'm just saying that these are religious, probably connected, not just, and the archaeologists don't always like to talk about that, because it's harder to like prove looking at a mound of dirt, like exactly what.
I suppose.
But you know, I'm more about religion, and I'm not an academic, so I don't have any fear of someone, you know, later finding me wrong. If I'm wrong, okay, I'm wrong.
Yeah. So
okay. I was giving you my best guess, looking at the thing, understanding the everything. Yeah, I'm giving you, you know. So
yeah, you don't have an academic reputation to uphold.
Yeah, no. But so I'm just right. I'm just saying that. But but you know, I don't go Graham Hancock crazy.
Nope.
But I'm just saying, I try to look at the stuff legitimately, like it says.
Yep.
It's all, he even said, almost always near water, or it's not, or but a lot of times, if you look closer, it's near a river, a lake, a stream. It's sometimes they're under, sometimes even like the pyramids, and some of them, I think in Mexico, actually, maybe some more places too, are over like rivers, like underground rivers, or over cenotes or whatever. Yeah, because this mound of creation, like I told you, I think also relates to the Mesopotamian, in a sense, pyramid beliefs, and the pyramid beliefs, at least some of it, in Egypt as well, because Egypt says that the pyramid or whatever is, in a sense, the mound of creation that comes out of, in a sense, the celestial waters.
Right.
And I know people are like thinking now mound, whatever. Yeah, well, the Earth diver myth, just to make it simple, because there's all kinds of different versions of it, but to make it simple, someone goes in the water and brings earth or sand or something from the bottom and makes it. Either they just build it up, period, into a mound, and then people can live on top of it. Sometimes they do it fast, sometimes they do it slow. It's still the same myth.
Right.
Then there's another one where there's a turtle floating, and it can either be a human woman, or it could be a man, or it could be an animal. They put stuff on the turtle's back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the mound of creation happens, is on the turtle's back in this celestial ocean or whatever.
Right.
Because like Mesopotamian myths, and even I think the Bible, everything is a great void. It's all water without land. That is the literal mythology of the earth diver.
Right.
And they make pyramids or whatever, in a sense, of big mounds. And that's, anyways. So, and they came generally from, or something like the woman falls through the sky and goes into the water. So she's up in the heavens or whatever. That's like the sky gods, which I told you about before. Some of the stuff sounds crazy, but when you start understanding, it's only crazy because we don't grasp it. Like if we were talking Christianity, we could talk about a lot of different things. You'd be like, oh yeah. But when you start talking about these other stuffs, we're unaware, we're not familiar, we don't grasp how it goes. So I remember this one archaeologist, I was showing him, hey man, did you realize how many deities could be considered sky deities? He goes, well, I don't know, they all are. I go, who the fuck said they all are? I'm not saying they all are. What the?
But there's many.
Yeah, way too many. Didn't you notice that? And they all seem to have similar kind of characteristics and some of the things and attributes. And I mean, you're not seeing. And he was like, oh, no, that's ridiculous. Blah, blah, blah. But more I looked, I'm like, no, actually, it's not ridiculous. And there's archaeologists that have also looked at what I said and they're, wow, it's, amazing.
Yeah.
They just think, some of them, that, well, it just all happened randomly. They all came to the same conclusion, sort of, but all separately.
I find that to be pretty, when you think about how connected things have to be in the world, it just seems like.
Right. All these mounds in Florida, because they're too many hundreds of miles apart, they can't be connected.
Right. It seems, I mean, maybe yeah, I don't know.
But anyways, I'm not saying all are, because all archaeologists, all think the same. Some people may agree with me and some don't. But
sure.
but I still try to say, I'm trying to say what I think is reasonable. Just going back to what's reasonable. There's new stuff out with Homo naledi. I don't know if you heard about that. There's even a Netflix show. I watched it, got angry. I thought, man, Cory might have to do a video on this shit.
Right.
I've seen archaeologists talk about it, but being sort of upset and thought it was sloppy and everything.
Okay.
I watched the show and I was kind of shocked. Whoa, I wouldn't say some of that shit. Oh, really?
Oh, geez, yeah.
He calls that stuff art. I don't know that I totally agree that's what it is. I would want an art expert to come in and do a thing and does Paleolithic. I want someone who does engravings to come in and prove those are actual engravings.
Right.
He says there's a mound where the thing is. I wasn't very convinced that that's what it was. Just because the body is all in the thing, could have fell in the mud and mud goes around it, so it looks like it's buried.
Right.
Some of the things, and not that I don't want to. If there's ancient, it's not like I'm bigoted. If there's ancient people, I would love to know they're barren. That's cool as fuck. The guy was like, oh, it's scary if that's what happened. I'm thinking only if you're religious, because it doesn't. I mean,
right.
That's cool. I just want it to be true.
Yeah.
Or possibly, or a good likeliness. Like when I talk about these things, and they're all relation to water and how that can be the myths, and even that other guy had already said that, right? That archaeologist said it before I did.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that it's different. Some people see it all things, and I'm not trying to put people down, but I watched that show, and at the end, it got worse. It's the longer I was watching it, the worse they were getting. Things they were saying, I was just like, wow, that's not science.
Right.
You trying to take off from Graham Hancock or something?
Right.
I mean, just start
branched into pure speculation.
Batshit nonsense crap.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anyway, so I find this stuff, real interesting. One of these times we're going to do a thing on them.
Cool.
Turtle Mound, which was located around Daytona Ormond Beach. You also have a picture of an island, what looks like an island, and that is a massive mound that exists in Florida Bay. So it wasn't unheard of for native populations to create man-made islands, which would serve as ceremonial grounds or some sort of religious or cultural significant structure. So the chief may live there, and it may have been a paramount chief or someone of high status who lived there as opposed to living within the village. Another piece of evidence is Miami Circle. Those of you who are familiar with Miami, this is down at where the Miami River meets Biscayne Bay.
Pause for a second.
Henry Flack.
So everybody knows about Stonehenge, but circles did not start in Stonehenge. Circles started, there's ones in Europe. Well, certainly like 12,000 years ago, Göbekli Tepe is almost like a circle.
Right.
And there's a place 9,000 years ago off of Israel, now underwater, which was another stone circle.
Okay.
Then there's another one about 9,000 or so years or something or less in the desert of Egypt that is also a stone circle with some things in the middle that were probably like a sundial. Then for 7,000 years ago, they show up in Poland, Germany, I think maybe Austria. And anyways, then eventually Spain makes a stone thing at, I think it's 7 to 6 or something. It's older than Stonehenge.
Okay.
Then Stonehenge is one of a couple different, like, hinges, wood hinge and stuff. So it's all about circles. I was just saying that don't forget, in your neck of the woods in Canada, and you have some medicine wheels in your direct area. But I was just saying, if you start seeing a lot of these concepts as similar, like they're showing Stonehenge, you shouldn't think this is exactly the same.
Right.
And even if it was similar people, they would have gone from Siberia, in a sense, in the north, and one group would have gone west, one group would have gone east, and they would have changed as they went.
Yeah.
So you get what I'm saying. So would not buy that like one culture like Graham Hancock went and did all that. Oh, fuck no. That's not what happened. And I also think too, people don't grasp, one culture could move and then could teach a culture, and then it could move and move. So even like they know that in Americas, right, there's the mound cultures. Well, there's a whole bunch of different ones from the Great Lakes all the way down, right? But they're different tribes. They're not all, but genetically, a lot of them have the similar. But there's this one called Fort Ancient. Okay. They made stone circle or some kind of maybe wood post circles or whatever kind of things, and made some mounds. These people are not the same DNA. So they cannot be the same people. They had to have learned it or whatever.
Right.
Or seen it and copied it or something. Somehow it was influenced, likely by the other ones that are very close to them. They used to think, all these are the same line. They must all be the same people. Nope. These one people, which I can't remember now off the top of my head where the Fort Ancient people were, but they are not the same. They were shocked. They were like, wow, these are not the same people. Well, I don't know why it's shocking. It's seriously, do they think everyone who's Christian has some kind of a genetic thing that makes them all Christian? I mean,
some people do think that. But.
Well, even let's just say Jewish. Everyone who's Jewish is not genetically Jewish.
Right.
I'm just making a comment. So I'm trying to because I feel like people have these blocks that are they're unwarranted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
like,
for sure.
They're not legitimate arguments. Well, hey, speaking of that, I try to talk to my wife about how people don't grasp fallacies. She goes, "You should talk to Cory all about fallacies." I go, I should, but the problem is I know people they want to learn, but then they don't listen. So I don't know. Is it
worth? Yeah. People get hung up on certain ideas, and
Well, what I'm trying to say is like it's a bad argument. Like when you say this, if you were to say, "Well, I know for sure that masculinity being threatened is why boys are killing themselves." You the fuck don't know that. What the shit? Exactly. In fact, all the research doesn't even mention that at all. So I don't even know why that you're even bringing that up.
Yeah.
So it sounds invalid to me. Like, okay, can you give me that? That's unjustified. So that argument is a fallacy and needs to be removed. You cannot use it. I don't even need to attack it. You need to get a new one. But
yeah, that's right. You have to start back at the justification. You have to draw the connection.
You have to build it up. That's why in axiology, in a sense, you build value. You understand the levels, and that's what grasps. Like I told you before, real simple people. If I tell you I'm going to give you my car to use for the day, and it's a $300 car, do you feel that worried if you drive it? No. If I tell you it's a $300,000 car, and if it gets damaged, it's all on you, in a sense. Did anything change? The value changed. Holy shit. Yeah. You're now responsible for something of a higher value. That's very simple, but I'm just saying value is everything. People think it doesn't matter. That feeling that it doesn't matter was a value judgment of the situation.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly.
Like, you literally can't get outside. That's why when people who are nihilists say things, then I just go, yeah.
You can't escape value. So
I like to see you try, but I know you can't, so it's a waste of my time. See, because I have value for my time.
That's right.
Tiger built a hotel on top of this, and there's these great pictures of workmen building the hotel.
I was just saying, did you hear that? They built a hotel on top of the native monument. So now they made a little beautiful, like fake monument,
right,
as a remembrance.
Yeah, you can see the difference between the like what the original might have looked like, and then
But just think about this too. How would they feel, Europeans feel, if Native Americans went to Europe and then leveled the fucking Stonehenge and built the fucking casino right on top of it?
Yeah, and then built like a fake like styrofoam Stonehenge out
there you go.
Oh no, we didn't actually need to offend you.
No, one of those bouncy houses, That's
right. Yeah,
make a bouncy house castle or Stonehenge and go. You can even go in it for $1.
Stonehenge Park.
Yeah, but I'm just saying it's amazing how I can't think of anything else but bigotry. But I'm trying to think could it be some other thing? Capitalist greed? I don't know, but it's just bigotry. I don't know how, even if you're capitalist, but then again, of course, I'm not. So
right.
Yeah, because I can think. And care. I can think and care at the same time. You know what happens when you think and care at the same time? You stop being a capitalist.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I like that. That's a good quote.
I thought you did a good quote today too. I shared it.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, I thought that's good. I already told you I'm anti-hierarchy because I get how fucked up hierarchy is.
Yeah,
it's literally hideous.
It's one of the things that keeps people from flourishing.
I totally agree. Even I would say that even the people that is supposedly on top, because remember, like King of the Hill, toxic masculinity, you actually getting to the top is not like you've arrived. You can now kick back in the easy chair. You can put your feet up. Yeah. No, now you're at the worst of your entire life because now you're afraid of everyone kicking you off the King of the Hill.
Yeah, exactly. Like
so it actually became worse.
Yeah, I feel like it falls into the axiom or the saying that no one is free unless all of us are free, because like even the rich are shackled to their hierarchy, their roles in the hierarchy. Even the powerful are shackled to these roles.
Right, but from an axiological value perspective, I would say that's always the case.
Yeah.
As of, you know what I'm saying? But it doesn't. In other words, I feel like sometimes people feel like workers have to prove themselves. The workers don't. The act of capitalism itself was unethical to begin with.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you're my friend and I have you come over and help do my jewelry, which I'm still haven't got my business started, but I'm slowly getting there. I got some today I got shelving sent to me.
Nice.
So I'm one step closer. But anyways, if I would have you come and work and you're my friend, right? Just forgetting the words capitalism or anything, you're my friend. And the value you produce, right? Your worker produced value, right? Let's say is $80 a day, right? Or no, $8 an hour. Excuse me, I said it wrong.
Sure.
$8 an hour. $80 an hour, right? That's your, in a sense, worker value. If you got all the value that, and this capitalists understand, does that mean that Cory gets all the value? In my world, it doesn't have to. Cory should get all of the value he's earned. If he worked, he should get what he earned. This, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't. So as I'm saying, ethically, I mean, it just, what part of this is wrong? Nothing. So,
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So, but capitalism goes, yeah, but I'm going to give Cory $750,
Right.
and then it goes, I don't know why Cory has a problem.
Yeah, exactly. I just
You
took
literally did a fucked
some
up
of it.
thing,
I didn't take all of it.
and you're trying to say that Cory is the one that's the problem, the worker.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah,
Silliness.
Of these shells. So, there wasn't a great deal of effort made to preserve any of this, unfortunately. But we do have now a park that's located down at this point, and you can see what that looks like. What the purpose is, we're not really sure. The connection between Stonehenge has been made, that this is some sort of, astrological, that's what I'm looking for, structure. But it certainly has created a great deal of interest among archaeologists. So what's significant about these cultures? What we really are looking at, and what helps to differentiate these cultures, because we don't really know what people call themselves. So it's very hard for us to say, well, the people who live in Tampa Bay were the so-and-so, and that's what they refer to themselves as, because we don't have any written records. If we have any written records, it's probably an account from a Spaniard. And so you're not really sure if they got everything right, if you know what I mean. But the evidence is what we use in order to differentiate between one culture and another. Pottery is a wonderful way to do this. Pottery basically represents a distinctive environment. So the clay, the water, the plants, all of these things, the plant material gets caught in that clay. And so scientists are able to determine what plant matter, what type of sand, soil is located within the clay once the pot is examined. Decoration is also distinctive because in many cases, what separates one culture from another is the fact that their decorations vary. You may have wavy lines in one culture and then kind of a basket weave pattern in another. So it's very distinctive, and it seems to be that many of these cultures wanted to have that distinctive nature. So you could have, if they were trading goods or trading pottery, they would be able to identify their own pottery. And people would be able to trade specifically with them if they wanted to, for example. The rise of agriculture is another part that becomes very important, because usually this means that cultures become less nomadic and more sedentary, that they're more likely to stay in one place. No, maybe not always, but at least they're not completely nomadic. They have villages and camps that they utilize. It also means that population increase is potential, that once you grow crops, the natural reaction is to have a population explosion. That's at least what happens in the early history of man. When we have the agricultural revolution, there is a population explosion. And along with agriculture comes the change of village hierarchy or leadership. Usually you have to have some sort of centralized control.
Pause for a second.
And that you
No, you do not have to have some type of centralized control.
Yeah,
You mean they often
always say
did,
that.
not that you have to.
Yeah.
Oh God, I hate when people say that shit. Like
They always, everybody pretends that hierarchies are natural and normal.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
You
Yes,
gotta
that
have a
often-
ruler. What are you talking about?
Right. So, so like it says maize, right? Cultivation of maize.
Yeah.
Now, once again, maize starts 9,000 years ago in Mexico, right?
Right.
Every single place in the United States that got or made maize somehow got it by way of Mexico's original.
Okay.
5,000 years ago, it shows up in a temple. One of the first pyramids they build in, I want to say Inca, but Peru.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a country name.
Right. Yeah. Inca's not a place, right?
Yeah, like, well, yeah. So this is before the Incas. I was thinking of the place. I think Peru and maybe even a little bit Ecuador, right? That's
Okay.
one above it, if I remember right. But anyway, and they also have hierarchical structures. I would say everywhere maize went a cultural package. They kind of say that when they talk about Europe, because Europe is special. So they'll say they say it's our cultural package or whatever. It's what brought our culture to Europe from the Middle East.
It came with this culture and this
right. It's right because it's learning tools. It's learning how to grow them. It's learning how to plant them. It's learning how to harvest them. When to harvest them. It is teaching you generally like about those stone rings or circles or whatever.
Right.
You need to know the seasons, because this really relates deeply to when you harvest and when you should plant. So anyways, my point is, when this maize passed around Americas, a lot of the places you find similar culture.
Okay.
In the Mound City in I think it's Missouri, along the is it the Missouri or the Mississippi River? I'm trying to think. Whatever. But anyways, that along that river, once again, rivers, but that one has maize as its main thing, and it is tons of hierarchy and kings and stuff, way more than most of the other Native Americans like cultures in the entire region practically. I mean, there's all the mound ones are kind of like that, but this one is even more distinct because it has mounds plus maize. I can't remember now if the Adena had maize. They may have up in Ohio. Okay. They were like one of the first. Anyways, but so the thing I'm trying to say is, though, I totally think there was types of gods, types of concepts that went with maize.
Right. Makes sense.
Usually means the creation of a chief or the elevation of a chief. And then usually some sort of elite group, whether it's village elders or a priest or a group of priests, something to that effect. Cultivation of maize is very important when we talk about native populations, because it usually means that they have interacted with another culture that is growing maize, and they learned the techniques for growing and cultivating maize. This means that you have more defined gender roles, that women are more focused on agriculture and domestic duties, and men are more focused on hunting. Trade, again, pops up because the spreading of maize usually follows trade patterns. And then you also have the rise of a more solid hierarchy of leadership, meaning that if you already have a chief, typically there comes along with maize this elevation of a paramount chief. So you may have 3 or 4 chiefs in a certain area, and one of those is considered to be the leader of the others for whatever reason, usually because they're wealthier or because they have some sort of power or status brought on by cultivation of maize, and that they're trading and receiving goods from outside their area.
Pause for a second.
So
This is
Mississippi,
what I said, right? Which
Yeah.
I mean, that's literally what I was trying to explain. And this right here, see, like, look at all these Mississippi cultures. They're all have different names, but really they're all connected.
Right.
And they're all building these pyramid things out of dirt, which is also, there's more pyramids right there in the Americas than people in North America than
Right.
most people even realize.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'll bet you most people don't know that any of this was there. Like,
right? And see how the whole structure, though, is about a whole bunch of waters. And look at that one behind it. Almost looks like a snake. A lot of cultures associated rain, snakes, or they would associate rivers as snaking or whatever. And it relates to goes back to the earth diver in a sense, and a lot of myths. A lot of myths talk about water and stuff, right? Like I said,
right.
So the snake is like an unruly serpent, like the rivers sometimes overflow, kill people, whatever. They're just trying to make their life, and the river got mad and overflowed and drowned everybody. But so it's like a dragon or whatever, or things. So even like in the China, there's like these 4 major rivers, and this, I can't remember how many the person does, but this one real famous king or whatever, it could be even mythical, is the one that controlled the dragons or controlled the rivers or whatever. Can put dams, in other words, or levees, or did different stuff, which also relates to then putting the water where you want, like putting it into crops and whatever. So remember, I'm saying it's like this. It all is the mythology and the water, and you start to see that it's just talking about cultural events, kind of, just like they say, like Christians, there's flood stories everywhere. Yeah, but some is a river and some is the ocean and some is
yeah, and none of them are a global flood.
Yeah, like even if they were, it still wouldn't mean it was the exact same thing. Or how about this? Christians, maybe you have it backwards. The reason you have a myth of that is because global myths, everybody shares these fake myths, and you're just one of the fake myths.
Yeah, every culture has flood myths, and you just happen to be one.
Yeah. But anyway, so if you notice too, they have one big temple on this picture here. And then at the other end of it, there's some more temples. Sometimes that kind of stuff could also, I don't know for a fact, I'm just throwing it out there. A lot they were saying about like agriculture, which these people were in a sense related to, and caring about the astral environment, like the seasons and the stars and sun. So it could be like, a certain time of the year, something, rises or whatever, sets either on these things, because that's just a big thing with all of the crop stuff, and it's in general, you got to care. So I'm just saying, you can see that it's related. Also, you can't look at all that and go, these people are simple.
Right. Yeah, no, that's pretty complex, like community, right?
Yeah, and you notice they even have a wall.
Yeah, like an inner wall separate from like what appears to be like an outside community kind of thing.
Yeah, see, you do see it. Yes, exactly. And if you notice too, outside there are a few smaller little pyramids also for the people.
Yeah,
pyramids for the people. Yeah, I don't think that's actually. It's certainly not equal pyramids for the people. The inside people get the big gigantic one, and then we have these little like smaller than the inside.
Yeah.
Anyway, my anarchist is always looking at all the different.
Yeah, that's right.
Look at this hierarchy imbalance.
This is an unequal distribution of pyramids.
There you go. Unequal distribution of pyramids. Anyways, so all I was trying to say is though, but look at how advanced. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, my point is, people have this picture of Native Americans that's just bigoted and wrong.
Yeah.
There is extremely high cultures all over the Americas, North and South and Canada. I mean, it's what the, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
And culture is very much tied to the cultivation of maize in all of the societies where Mississippian culture had an influence. You find corn. What's interesting, and we'll talk about this in a second, is how corn and cultivation of maize kind of, I wouldn't say skips Florida, but it has a interesting correlation. The northern part of Florida, as you can see in this map, sort of does begin to grow corn, and we have evidence of that. But then, as you go a little bit further south to the middle of the state and further down all the way to the southern tip, not so much. You still have the rise of Paramount cheese. You have all of the indications of an influence with Mississippian culture. We have evidence of goods coming from as far north as areas like Michigan and New York in Florida, but there is no corn. And we talked about this in the last module about how the soil is so sandy in many areas of Florida that it's not able to grow a great deal of products such as corn. And so that kind of aids in this differentiation as well. So as typical with Mississippian culture, you have mounds. Mounds are very distinctive in terms of Mississippian culture. It's,
Pause for a second.
Travel around.
Do you notice this thing right here that he's showing? It has one big mound, a whole bunch of little ones like temples or whatever. That thing in the middle looks like mouth with teeth. What that actually is where the elite are.
Oh, okay.
That's raised for the elite. Those are little houses.
Ah.
And then, but I was going to say too, do you notice there's also shell rings, half rings around all the things?
Right.
Or mound rings. Maybe they're not shell. I don't remember, but it doesn't matter to me, because to me, what they use is I'm relating to the religious concepts going on or whatever.
Right.
not like, that's why sometimes I feel like they care too much about, like, well, I use shells, so it gotta be garbage. I'm like, seriously? It's like fucking 200 feet high. How the hell is it garbage?
Right. Yeah. How long does it take to build garbage piles that high?
Why would you do it in that kind of a way? I mean,
yeah, that's right. No, there's definitely something else going on there.
And why would you, when you're done, put a little temple on top?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Or a house or whatever, like a sacred house. Yeah, on the garbage, I don't think it's garbage.
No, probably not.
I don't think you're grasping what's going on. Well, I was going to say one thing about shells, to me, I think, is they relate to stars. And stars are where your ancestors are, in a sense. I think that probably led to the concept in a totemistic mindset that stars relate to animals or things. So then you relate to that. That's a totemistic, in a sense. You're I don't want to say spirit animal, but in a sense, like what's attached to you or the clan, totem or whatever.
Okay.
I was just saying spirit animal because some people can understand that maybe they don't know what I mean by totem and stuff, but
I suppose, yeah. I'm
just saying that in a sense, that's where your people are, like or what you're related to, in a sense, not just like how they, like in the Chinese New Year, different times of years or a pig or whatever. It's not to me just that, but it could be that in a sense.
Okay.
All I'm saying is that, and it reminds me of the pagan saying, for people to simplify what I'm trying to say, as above, so below. In other words, what you see up there, if you see little blinking white things, and so you make a mound of all these little blinking white things, then you've made, in a sense, towards, like he said, towards the gods, or towards, we're related to this special thing because it's white. Right. So it's at one temple, you see or a mound is white.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm just saying. So what I'm trying to do is help people grasp that even though you're not familiar with this, you really kind of are, in the sense. It's a different context, but it's not really that different. In other words, like people will say, where's heaven? Well, it's in the sky. I mean, yeah, right? Right. So in other words, your clan or your people you go up there, or you relate to that thing up there, that set of stars or whatever.
Right.
Anyways, I don't get into like some people, which not that you couldn't, but there's too much to me wishy-washy stuff like Graham Hancock when you start trying to figure out what stars.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Because then you got to figure out what tilted the earth, where was the sky at that time, and
takes a lot of speculation without.
I don't feel comfortable. I don't get into any of that. I'm not saying there couldn't be someone to do it legitimate, but I don't know enough and don't care enough to look that far into it. And I've seen it's got to be at least half of it out there is absolute bullshit.
Right.
Maybe more than that. Maybe it's 75%. There's a lot of bullshit. I'm not saying I'm not saying it's all bullshit. Right. But I'm not qualified to know that much of the difference unless it was an archaeologist or somebody that I trusted.
Fair.
Because I'm not as skilled in that, and I didn't look into it because I started going like, no, that's like you said. I don't mind speculation if it can be attached to something more justified. But when it's just loose, floating off like a balloon, helium.
Yeah, it doesn't feel. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done with it. No, that's not the kind of, that's just faith. What the fuck? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's not what I try to build. Speculation that is reasoned logical jumps. I go, look at this thing, see how it's this, see how they're all this, see how this is the whole thing. And I make a thing like him and me both talked about the corn or whatever, or the elites, or, because those are reasonable jumps. We don't 100% know once again, but those are reasonable jumps. What those other people talk about is just, no, they're not reasoned jump. And I don't support that kind of speculation. So because it's too speculative, like you said, and you would have to be really, really, into it, or I would have to buy archaeology books on it and stuff. I'm not doing that. So
yeah, fair.
I would just tell everybody when it comes to any of that stuff, they say it's about stars. That's probably true. If they say which one, that's probably, you need to look into that and probably
maintain some skepticism.
Well, yeah, I would just start with it's probably not true, and then make sure that you proved that it is.
Yeah.
South, you will run into mountains everywhere. Florida was very much a part of this as well. So again, we have evidence that points to the fact that Mississippian culture was made inroads into Florida, but there are some changes to that. Of course, the cultivation of maize. The Crystal River site is considered probably one of the best from an archaeological standpoint, but you also have what they call Mound City, which is toward the interior part of the state. If you look at the map of the mounds, it's 2 or 3 slides back, you'll see right around Palm Beach, there are red dots towards the interior part of the state, and that's what Mound City is. So it's connected some way to river systems for trade as opposed to ocean. Again, pottery. What is pottery used for? Well, if you look at these 4 examples of pottery, you're thinking, well, maybe they used it to hold, I don't know, some sort of commodity, corn or seeds or something to that effect. But you notice that they're decorative, and they're decorative in different designs. Each of these different designs represents a different culture, and we'll put names with the cultures in just a second. But why would you differentiate between, or why would you have different designs like this? So you got 4 different cultures, 4 different designs. It could be the soil that you're using, what's in the clay, the plant material, and all of that that's in there. Typically, they're mimicking what they see. So it may be, the picture of the bottom right has kind of wavy lines. Maybe they're closer to the ocean, and so therefore this is their interpretation of water. We don't really know. But we do know that certain patterns of decoration are distinctive to a particular culture, that all of their pieces, or most of their pieces of pottery, fall in the same decoration pattern. So that is how they differentiate between different cultures. Obviously, we don't have any written records where they call themselves, such and such. So basically what archaeologists have done is said, well, this is indicative of St. John's culture because they're near the St. John's River. They all share the same type of pottery and decoration in their pottery. So we're going to call them all part of the St. John's culture, for example. So that's when we look at the different names for the different cultures, that's how they differentiate between them, is by the type of culture of pottery and the decoration that they're using. Maize is native to the Americas.
According to our notes, that is where we want to stop watching the first part
because
of this
he goes on and on about maize and stuff, and that's
okay.
But it's good just to notice right there the original, what the maize, started out and stuff, and then what it ended up looking like is pretty different.
Right.
Because it wasn't, I don't know, designed by God. It was designed by humans. So
yeah, that's right.
Cultivation.
Go figure, hey?
Yeah.
Find this next part.
I know this is like a college kind of or whatever, thing.
Right. He's clearly lecturing, boring, right?
But I think it's good info to grasp what I'm trying to say. A lot of this stuff is unfamiliar or complicated to people, but I'm trying to, help out.
Yep, for sure. Let's see if I
can... Is it starting to make more sense to you?
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's neat to kind of see some of the ways that Native American or Indigenous peoples kind of develop their cultures and yeah, it's neat. Very cool. All right. So now we're back up here.
So there are different periods. There's the Paleo Indians. These are the early Indians. An example of this is the Osceola River Prehistory Project, which we'll talk about in a second. Early Archaic period, middle Archaic period, late Archaic period, and then post-Archaic period. And at the end of post-Archaic is, of course, European contact. The map on the right shows the sea level changes. And so this points to something to consider, that 10,000 years ago, rivers in Florida, the rivers that we know, maybe the St. John's, wasn't there. Maybe it was it only went a certain distance. So we have to keep all of this in mind as we're looking for evidence of even Paleo Indians or earlier.
Pause for a second. Did you know that? Like level 3. So he's saying 10,000 years ago, that's where Florida was. The dark blue. Huh. Yeah, like a lot bigger.
Yeah,
like half the state's gone underwater. And
no
guess
kidding.
What's going to happen in the near future with the next 60 years?
Yeah.
The exact same thing. Another half of the entire state is going to go under the water.
Yeah, and it's not taking 10,000 years to do it.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, at least all this really dark green, a lot of that is sketchy.
Right, eh?
A lot of that's 6 to 10 feet high. So you go up 10 feet, 5 feet of water. But see, there's a whole bunch of other more problems because the water can shoot up rivers, So
right.
Instead of coming down to the ocean's higher, it's going to shoot into the river. Turn the whole river salty. That's going to be, and also maybe overflow,
Yeah.
And then if there's manholes or drains of the ocean, they'll all go. So you won't even be near the ocean yet. You'll be flooded through your manholes. All that.
Right. Yeah. Geez. Yeah.
But I would say it's crazy, huh? When you look at it, 10,000 years ago, Florida was like freaking twice as big.
Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, climate doesn't change, does it?
No. Yeah.
Literally, I'm looking at it.
Wow.
Why didn't we realize this earlier?
Well, some people did.
Right? Some people gave a shit. And you know what's even crazier? There's people in Florida, like the governor today, that doesn't want to talk about man-made climate change. And we literally can see how the effects of climate change are pretty soon you're going to be underwater.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Even when you're on high ground, you're going to be deeply affected by the fact that
Deeply. Oh, yeah. Water systems, water tables, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Jeez, eh? That is pretty wild. Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around, like,
right?
just how big Florida was. And, like, I mean, in a sense, 10,000 years isn't that long.
No. Yeah, it doesn't look good, does it?
No, it doesn't look good at all.
And Corey's like, it looks worse when you see it in this perspective, the 10,000 year perspective. You're like, oh shit, I could tell that's not a good place to live.
Yeah, that's right. I'm thinking, but you live in Florida, Dave.
I do. Although, the first thing I did when I moved to Florida was look for an elevation.
Yeah. No, that's good call.
I can't remember, but I live somewhere between 50 to 150. I can't remember.
Oh, okay. Above sea level.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, I picked
that's good call.
Well, because I first was going to live at the place at Fort Myers, then I went like 6 feet. Oh, I guess I'm not living there.
Yeah. That's not a good investment.
I'm like, this may not be here in 30 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, fuck that. Yeah. So that once again, because I'm one of those crazy leftist science believers.
Yeah, that's right. God damn, eh?
Yeah.
That landforms change, especially water. The sea levels seem to have risen over time. So what might have been, a valley or a depression within, the middle of the state now has become a lake because water has intruded into the area because of the higher sea levels. So you have to be ready. And we'll have an example of one such site. Yes, the Wendover Pond site, which is kind of an interesting aspect. So post-archaic cultures, these are the cultures that, again, archaeologists have looked at pottery type and location. Specifically, the pottery type lends itself to location because of the soil type. So you've got St. John's people, as I mentioned, those are people who live along the St. John's. The Deptford culture, Swift Creek culture, Wheaton Island culture, Caves Pond culture, and so on. All of these seem to point to different types of pottery and different types of decoration, which seem to suggest they are completely different cultures. Some branch off from each other, like the Wheaton Island culture produces the Caves Pond culture. There's some similarities, but they're different enough that they warrant to be called something else. So keep that in mind as we talk about this. Over time, these cultures will consolidate. And this is where we start recognizing the names that we attribute to Native Americans. So the Choctaw, the Creek, the Appalachee, the Miccosukee, the Timucua, Calusa, etc. They consolidate into cultures and they begin to define themselves, or at least seem to combine under chiefs, common chiefs. The Calusa, for example, when Menendez comes to Florida, he has interactions with the Calusa, and they have a paramount chief system where there's one chief that Pedro meets with and interacts with because he's the most powerful. But then there are chiefs underneath him, and so you still have this system that is very much kind of the continuation of the same sort of leadership. So why do these cultures develop? How do they consolidate, and why do they seem to kind of gravitate to certain places? Well, you think about migration, the Creek are a great example of this because they will eventually become part of the Seminoles. What the Creeks do is they migrate based on their complete disdain of the American government and Americans in general. They leave Georgia and Alabama area and move to into the South or middle part of Florida because the British are taking over Florida. And so during the British period, we see this mass migration of Creek Indians into the area around Gainesville. So to them, that's an external threat, that they've just gone through a series of wars, the Creek Wars, against the United States and the settlers who keep moving into their territory. And so they figure, you know what, let's just get the heck out of here. And we'll go somewhere where we know we're going to be treated fairly by the British. Of course, what they don't realize is within about 20 years, they're now going to be under the Spanish and eventually the Americans again. So it doesn't last. But regardless, you have internal threats. So some groups will pull away from another group because they side with a certain leader over another. Trade is another heavy what am I trying to say? Reason for consolidating. Trade is very important to the native populations, even prior to European conquest and contact with Europeans. Trade is the lifeblood of the community.
Thousands of years.
Environment can play a role in this.
Pause for a second.
Yeah.
It says it like it's an off thing, like, well, they also had trade. No, they had trades for thousands of years, sometimes thousands of miles or whatever. Yeah, mass trade all over the Americas. I mean, I'm just saying that you're talking like, they also did trade, before the Americas. Not like they just learned it. They had been doing it for almost thousands of years, like I said, long time.
Yeah.
At least 2,000 years. Let's put it that way. I think it's longer than that, but because I think, I'm trying to think when the Hopewell was. I think that's somewhere around that time. Yeah. Anyways, but that culture, I know, got stuff from the Rocky Mountains all the way to Ohio. So, I mean, and stuff from almost to Florida all the way up to Ohio. So, I mean, it just had mass trade.
Yeah, like you say, like he almost almost says it like it's a modern kind of evolution.
That's what I meant. Like, these people finally became modern and traded. That's all. The reason I brought it up, because I felt like how it was said.
Yeah,
I didn't like that.
It's not very clear.
Yeah, thousands of years all over. Yeah, they did not wait to trade till Americans came.
Right.
We're talking about, with higher water levels. I mean, it's not going to happen like immediately, but over time things change. Maybe the land isn't as productive as it used to be, and so it requires them to move to a different part of the state or to a different part of the South. Chief centralization of the power within the chief. The chief begins to call the shots, and maybe he moves the people away, or maybe he combines different populations together, and then the tribute chiefs as well, the paramount chief and the tribute tribes, the ones that are underneath, paying tribute to this paramount chief. I included maps also of Georgia and Alabama. Obviously, Alabama will become important when we talk about the migration of the Creeks into Florida. We've got a couple more modules before then. But Georgia is interesting because you've got the southern edge of the Timucua and the Appalachia there. And then the Wale and the Yemassee play a big role within Florida history. And so I wanted to go ahead and kind of introduce them. The Wale, it is spelled with a G, but it is pronounced Wale. And the Yamasee obviously looks normal, but they're not the Gwale, they're the Wale. So always remember that. It's my little tidbit of history for you. So Paleo Indians, what do we know, and what are we getting from? This is the Osceola River site where they found a mastodon's tusk.
Pause for a second.
Isn't
that wild? They found a mastodon tusk in fucking Florida.
That's awesome.
Take that, Christians.
Right.
Or people that don't believe in evolution.
Yeah, for sure.
Come on.
That's wild.
Yeah. Interesting about the Osceola River is recently archaeologists have had a dig where they suspect that the Osceola River site is actually older than the date that they have established Indians crossing the Bering Strait. So in other words, there were Indians in Florida prior to Indians crossing into North America from Russia, crossing the Bering Strait. It's kind of thrown that whole date.
Pause for a second. I hate how he's saying this. Everyone, as we already told you in the other video, right? I bet you're getting it by now. Everyone came from the Bering Sea side. Right. Everyone, including the Polynesians who could have came across, would have still crossed on the not towards Europe side.
Right.
So I told you that it's not a mystery.
Just an earlier migration, right?
There you go. Not a mystery. Or they came by boat along that coast and all the way to whatever it came in. I mean, my point is not a mystery, always the same side, including Macedons, right? Do you know where they came from? They originally came from I think these ones came from Siberia and went across, I don't know, the land bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. It just would have been way before. So
before. I think they came. I think they came. I don't remember exactly. I was going to say, I don't know. I was going to say 100,000, but I can't remember.
It's hard to say for sure.
When they started coming, I did learn it, but I forgot
it. That's all right.
So, but I'm saying it's certainly old. It's been a long time. So it shows that they couldn't have swam. That's my point. So there was a land bridge earlier, obviously, because they came over. They didn't just wait until 15,000 years ago or whatever and come over with the natives, people chasing them.
That's right.
No,
There obviously was a way for them to get across before that.
Right.
Into a tizzy because they're not really sure how that was possible. So the only thing that makes sense at this point is that they think that a group of Indians came by water. Where they came from, no clue. But it does.
That's not true. It's not no clue. Stop saying we have no clue. What was it on the other side? No. Absolutely not.
It was always from the one side.
It's always from the one side. Because even if they said it's tell the Vikings or whatever, it was always on the one side.
Yeah.
So even when some people said that China may have came over, I don't think it's impossible. But here's the thing: it was still on the same side.
Right.
Yeah. All of it came from the same side. That's all I'm trying to say. The only mystery would be like when exactly or how they did it, but where they did it. This is not up for debate. I've heard someone say, "What if they came across ice?" I don't think that's totally impossible either, because they did. I already know they went thousands of miles across the ice with dog sleds or with caribou sleds across the ice already.
Right.
And they could, if you can have, just saying, if you have a dog sled, you could also have food, right? So they say, how could they get across? I don't know. Same people when they go across oceans. How do they get across oceans, Corey? when it takes so long and there's no food, right? No food. I guess they can fish, right? Supposedly.
Yeah.
Or get birds, or whatever. But my point still is most of them, I don't know, bring food.
Yeah. They take food with them almost.
They take food with them, right? So anyways, all I was trying to say is I don't know that it's so impossible that they could have taken dog sleds or caribou sleds across, not manual labor, across very fast, across ice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know exactly how it is, and they may have had to, walk or do some other stuff, but I'm just making a comment that I don't feel that that's exactly what they did. I agree with the boats. All I was saying is maybe it's not so impossible as some people think, just to go across ice or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. But I'm still saying it still happened on this side of the ice. That's all I'm saying. From Asia, period. This is what had happened. I mean, and I also agree with it's not exactly correct to just say they were Asians because people. In fact, this reminds me. I just had an argument the other day or last night, whatever, on Mastodon with someone because they kept telling me, oh, they don't. They think the oldest culture, or the oldest culture is Aboriginals in Australia, and I said, yeah, by way of Africa. Once they left Africa, and then she goes, no, they came from South Asia. I go, okay, so South Asians originally came from Africa. And then she's like, but the Australians have the oldest culture. And I go, they don't. Literally, Africa does. Do you not know this? Here, look, sand people, right? Africa, I mean, the earliest that someone could have maybe stepped foot on Australia is maybe 75,000 years ago, okay?
Mm.
Not until 65,000 did it to become a few people, probably.
Right.
Hold on, I'm still not done because it gets less. So genetically, I think it's only 40,000.
Okay.
Sometime around that is about the first burials. I think it's 44, 1,000. So it could actually be related. Because, when they say 40,000, you got to give and take a little bit.
Right.
But those aren't, those are kind of like educated guesses, not like 100% a dot only. We just, a lot of times when I say, dates and stuff, a lot of times it could be a little bit of fluctuation just because I try to make things simpler so you can remember it, so you can utilize the knowledge I give you, other than caring about, well, it could be 500 plus on each side, or, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So I try to cut out a lot of that stuff because the more they add, then you just forget it.
Yep.
And it's not even useful at all, going back to value. So I care about you grasping the value, just like I keep trying to get you to understand the mounds and relating them to not just the Stonehenge, but pyramids. So you can start seeing that this stuff is, and my concept is actually not dissimilar. It doesn't make it like Graham Hancock, one person built it all, or aliens, but what really happened is pretty amazing. But I see it more like it comes from a source. The source goes out and moves, and then people interact, and then they start, doing it. I mean, just like they build burial mounds in Europe, in the Kurgan culture, and then starts maybe like 5,000, I think, or something, 6,000, maybe even could be 7,000 in Siberia. But it starts and then it lasts until like almost the Ottoman Empire, I think, or something. I mean, it's like long time,
no kidding,
thousands of years time. Crazy. And in a sense, they're doing this very similar thing, called tradition. But so I'm just saying that it's similarly, a lot of this other kind of stuff is similar. And to me, the ideas come across. They're not the same people. Maybe not even like I was saying with the Fort Ancients, where something is almost similar. They think it's the same, but actually it's just an offshoot in a sense.
Right.
Culture adopted for some reason. So that's what I'm trying to say is that the same thing. The reason these mounds, yes, they have a connection to each other in some small way sometimes, but not some global spanning thing that was making them all like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
So, which I know I've talked about before, but I want to keep saying it because I know I dabble in stuff that people that don't know, but like, oh yeah, you gotta check out Graham Hancock. I'm like, fuck, I care about real shit.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's also why I try to be, make all these distinctions and caveats and explain what I'm saying, so people don't think that I am talking like him. I'm not. But yes, we sometimes bring up the same thing because I don't know, it's real facts he's addressing. He just lies about them.
Yeah, that's right.
Which we're still going to do a video, by the way. I want you to watch that entire thing. And
Okay.
by the way, I want you to also watch the Homo Naladi so we can talk about that, because I'll say stuff and then at least you'll have some reference.
Yeah.
But I want you to watch the Graham Hancock because, like I said, I want you to take notes though. So if you take a long time to watch it, that's fine. I'm not saying, but just take notes, watch it, and listen to what he's saying. Every time you have a question or you think like this, you don't trust it, or
Right.
you're not convinced or something, write it down so we can talk about that, because I think it'll be super beneficial for people that are not, skeptics or whatever, to hear how they should think. Like that's what I try to do. Like, do you see how you reason or why this reason is good or not good?
Yeah.
Because I'm done. Like to me, the stuff in my blog should blow so far out of water that what they said on that TV show, they should actually release an apology.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You're like, yeah, got a chance that's going to happen. But I'm
that'll never happen.
They're so wrong. They should say, we should have been careful. And that's serious. They said some ridiculous horseshit.
Of course. Yeah.
But so I'm saying, so I try to be clear. And I also, like, say some archaeologists don't like to get into explaining some of this stuff because they feel, well, then people are going to start putting an association towards like Graham Hancock crap instead of, respecting that actually, no, the Native Americans built those mounds. I'm just saying that they had shared culture related.
Right.
Yeah, that's not the same thing.
No, exactly.
They didn't all cross the Bering Strait, but they came from somewhere else. So kind of stay tuned for more developments, I guess you could say. The Wendover Pond, this is an interesting site. The bottom left shows you what it looks like today. This was dig done in the late 70s and 80s. And basically it was somebody who got a backhoe and decided that they were going to expand this lake, and they dug into, they took the backhoe and went to dig, and they uncovered a skeleton. And so they have found a number of skeletons located in this pond that were buried underwater, which is kind of an interesting aspect, that I guess if, the water table is so high that you have to find some way to bury people. And I guess the only way to do it is bury it in water. I'm not sure how they came about with this, but anyway, this site has been very, very important in terms of shedding light on the early Archaic period. The Bluffton
pause it
site
for a second.
is,
so when he's saying that, because I don't like how he said that, if you're going to bury people, I guess you put them in water. I don't know. Don't they have like, celestial water myths and stuff? And
yeah, it's not just a matter of necessarily like this is the most convenient way.
Right. You get what I was trying to imply, that what you said is like that, well, they didn't have anything else, so they put them in the swamp. Oh, so hold on now. Let's use that bigoted logic. The bog bodies all over Europe, right? Well, they just had bogs, and so they put the bodies there. I mean, they how did he say it? It's just, anyways. I know he's a college professor. I'm not trying to be hard on him, but dude, come on. Try to watch your language.
Right. Yeah, like think a little bit outside of the box a little bit, like.
Well, but just like I said, like I told you with ethics, and they say ethics are really complicated. No, actually, ethics are not complicated. people might like to make it complicated, just like they make capitalism complicated. They say all this bullshit, and I'm like, you know what that math means to me as an ethical person? You're not ethical. You just have this long explanation.
Yeah, that's a really long way of saying it, but
okay, so you took 10,000 words to basically say I'm not an ethical human being and I support an unethical system. Okay, well, that's kind of you. But anyways, I'm just saying if you imply something that's using that sense. So in other words, like I'm saying, if it's ethical to do to Cory, it should also be ethical to do to any other person who's not my friend.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So the kind of anarchist thinking, the whole everyone, no hierarchy, everybody's on the same ethical level. We're all supposed to do this.
Yeah. So if you're gonna assume, like they say, the bog bodies, there's a justification beyond just that there were bogs and they had nowhere else to bury these. See? You have to give the same grace and same thoughtfulness to the indigenous peoples of Florida.
Right. Because if it's ethical, then it's always ethical. It's not like, that's why I'm saying about hierarchy is unjust, because should everybody have hierarchy? Well, if everyone had hierarchy, there wouldn't be hierarchy. And I'm like,
exactly.
To me.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
But anyways, so because it's about inequality. And it literally is explaining it, but hierarchies do. Literally what they're about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I'm saying is, so if it's the same, right? So like a coin, you should be able to flip it. If it's true one way and true the other way, then that's what's ethical. That's a true in a sense thing. But if you can put it in another position and it doesn't belong at all, like saying, well, Native Americans, because we know they're simpletons, right? The bigots I'm talking about. Not me personally. I don't think that at all. But I'm saying bigots' conception of the simple and, so they just try, utilize their land. They just threw them in the water, I'm just making a comment. Would you say the same thing about the bog bodies? They just threw them in the water. I mean, because it was there. I mean, anyways, there's also not just one culture. They've also found ones with deep cenotes or, like big water things, and they put them in. People have been putting, stuff in the waters. And like I said, anyways, when you already grasp that, like the earth diver myth, that one time the whole world was water and it was all sacred or whatever, and then this mound happens and it's like a pyramid or whatever, and it's closer towards, where the gods fell out of the sky or whatever, or gods. Right. So, I mean, you start to understand like a little more like why they're doing this stuff. In a sense, it's not just, once again, like I said, it's absolutely, I don't buy that. Oh, just random. These simple people, and they saw water and they don't that much land, so we'll just throw them in the water instead of wasting our land. Like, all right, seriously.
No, I think there's more to it than that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like you say, like there's some of these communities that have been built, and you attribute like these people that built these complex communities are in fact just throwing bodies into the water.
See, Cory's using that little skeptical or logical thinking, like, well, wait a minute. You already said they're advanced cultures with all kinds of advanced things, and they build advanced stuff and put towns here and people there and higher here and lower here, and yet they put the bodies anywhere.
Yeah,
I mean, got it right.
Yeah, that's great.
It doesn't even scratch the smell test. Like, come on.
No,
see, so I was just saying, he probably doesn't even know that. To me, that sounds kind of bigoted.
Right.
Because you wouldn't say that about somewhere else.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you wouldn't.
Yep.
And like you said, if you're going to call all these advanced cultures, then all of a sudden, and they just did simple things,
Yeah, that's right.
What's wrong with this?
The funny thing, I mean, in a sense, the funny thing is that like they're actually not that different from our modern times. Like we just have more tech, right? Like it's not their way of thinking wasn't that different from our own.
No, and it's really bigoted when we think it totally, is in a sense.
Yeah.
That's like I told you, which I've been trying to do with all my videos is to in a sense, I see it as a lot of anarchism, even though everybody doesn't, because I'm showing you all these cultures and getting you familiar with all this difference.
Yeah.
In a sense, and you start to not be so encapsulated, which I think is why you think, not you personally, but I'm saying people think that, oh, anarchism is crazy, or, you know, owning your own self can't be true. How you should have ethics. Like, how else are you building them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's your axiom starting then? Because just like to me, as an axiologist, the concept of stuff like, is the world fake, doesn't bother me at all. There's no, in fact, I would say, well, an axiologist would think this way. Okay, so if the world is fake and there's fake people that cannot be hurt, or the world is real and there's real people that can get hurt, as an axiologist, which should I put my thinking on? Should I act however I want and hope it's fake?
Right.
Or act as a credible person, and if it's fake, it doesn't matter, but if it's real, it meant everything.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not a
if
hard
it's real,
choice.
and
But you see, I'm saying how value-wise, it's not a hard choice. How is that a hard choice?
That's right.
Real people can be harmed, or no one can be harmed. How should I act? I should act as the real people, because then, if it is real, real people are not harmed.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Like I said, I don't even get why people act like, oh, I guess that they don't grasp value. But to me, how is ethics that hard? Like, seriously. I know there's all kinds of variations, but some things I just...
Yeah. It's like the idea that some people, for a while ago, there was people talking about, are we in the Matrix, right? Like,
right.
And you go, well, it doesn't matter, because we have to act as if the world around us is real anyway.
Which isn't, you've made an axiological argument against that, in a sense, solipsism.
Right.
The solipsism says, hey, what if it's fake? And I go, right, if it's fake, then it is. But if it isn't fake, I need to know how to act. And since I need to err on the side of not harm, well, then I have to act as if it's real.
Yeah.
Right? See?
Yeah.
So, but but I'm just saying, so to me, they go, the hard problem is solipsism. I go, how is that even a hard problem?
It doesn't sound very hard.
With axiology, it's like, that's like step one. Okay, next. I'm like, it didn't even take me 10 seconds. Boom. I know the choice and the correct action. So,
For
I mean,
sure.
it just like they don't get, like, why would an axiologist, atheist, not welcome a God even if it was real? They're worse than regular atheists, because regular atheist says, if a God came, I would worship it or whatever, if it was real. And an axiological atheist goes, I wouldn't worship anything. And a God is a label explaining a type of authority that is granted that is undue. In a sense, so the whole concept of any being demanding worship, to me, is a being that does not deserve it.
Yep. Exactly.
So gods, to me, as an axiologist atheist, are inherently evil and vile if they were real.
Yeah. Regardless of whatever magic powers it might have, if it places itself above others, then it is an unethical being.
And it demands worship, and even worse than that, it tortures and kills people that don't.
Yeah.
As if everyone has an obligation to love it or care about it. Really? Why?
Yeah, exactly.
I have an obligation. So to me, it's the whole thing is an unethical thing. I mean, it's a tyrant saying, I'm going to do this. And, so to me, I'm just saying it's a value thing. Just like this, to me, you value-wise, when you use evidence, do you really think of it only as what, do you notice, like you said, does he put a different level of thinking when it's a Native American? What if we took away, we just said, a culture build a mound at this area, but we didn't tell you where, and we said, here's what it looks like. We never told you who did it.
Right.
Would you still have these
assumptions?
I feel sort of bigoted assumptions.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I think you wouldn't.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that, a lot of the assumptions that are built in is because it's Indigenous peoples, and there's a bunch of history and culture and shit that goes along with that. Yeah, a bunch of bigotry,
racism, all kinds of shit, and classism. thinking that somehow someone who doesn't work in make things or whatever is not somehow good enough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
What I meant by that is, so people can grasp, some people think that there's Native Americans that make jewelry or art of some kind, and they can buy it. And so those Native Americans get wealth because they can sell things or whatever, in a sense. So they're considered to be better in a capitalist, bigoted, classist mindset. That this is, in a sense, a person who's activating in our capitalism correctly. The good Indian, right? Bigotry. So I'm just saying, and then the ones that do things their own or don't even try to make products, to sell, those are somehow the bad Indians or whatever. And I'm just saying the simpletons or whatever. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
I don't think that way. I'm just saying, like, the bigotry that is built behind some of this stuff. Like why people think they all kinds of reasons, there's religion reasons. Those are the simpletons because they're barbaric and believe in barbaric religions or whatever, or what, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's only one type. I was just mentioning, I do think, to me, that a capitalist mindset is absolutely applied. Americans just think of being a good American. Yeah, because you're a capitalist. And, but also religious, because there's religious bigotry. Hell, that first thing I do. But it's even not even that. Remember, they make them stop learning their language.
Yeah, that's right.
So it's a cultural attack. So cultural attack, I think, also is like this cultural bias. The cultural attack is this thing is not good. All kinds of reasons, right, are wrong, but they're thrown at what is an Native American or Indigenous or First American or whatever. But my point is that the cultural thing is that it's to buy it, which you don't realize you're seeing through this cultural bias lens. Oh, exactly. I know exactly what Native Americans are. No, you don't.
Yeah, you've got your white supremacist European colonizer glasses on.
Exactly. And as you know, so now this goes back to like what you said. So are all people aware that they're doing that they're wearing those? And I would say no. And so most when you said before, all people are racist, no, I don't think that. But I think all people can act, think, or state something racist.
Yeah.
And so
all people have biases that they are unaware of is the thing.
Unaware. Well, that's right. So that's another thing too, is I don't think he was even aware he said that. But seriously, if we just took that and we talked about England, would you have that kind of bias? Or Ireland,
right. Exactly.
No. So come on. And those are, even older. Those are in the Iron Age, I think, or something, a lot of those or whatever. Or maybe even to Bronze Age. I'm not totally sure, but they're old. So they're somewhere from 3,000 to 1,000 or something. I mean, they're whatever.
Okay.
If I remember right, I can't remember exactly about bog bodies, but I'm just making a comment that it's a long time, and certainly it's also not current. Like, say, when they were talking about some of these sites, they're comparable.
Right.
That's all going back to what you said. It's comparable, same time. So those people and these people, same time. And you already said these people are advanced. They got all these things, temples and mounds and elites and multiple elites that have other elites above them. And
right. These got complex social structures.
Yeah.
Very complicated society, but
still also see them as simpletons.
Yeah. They'll see them as these,
or caricature native people or something.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why we're doing this in a sense, little 3 video series and blog too. But it's because we care about this, and you and me are not so arrogant to think we already knew all this.
Yeah. Wow, absolutely. I didn't know most of this stuff. So.
Okay, I knew some of this, but I went and learned more.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew some about the Saskatchewan stuff, the Indigenous peoples here, but I didn't know hardly anything about Florida. Like, this is all new information basically to me.
Right on.
Oh.
But just so far, what is your impression already? Is it like simpletons or?
Of course, yeah, no, absolutely not.
It's more advanced even than you would have thought, right?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Well, I
Like
remember first time I was shocked. How is it
right.
this advanced? Why are they? Why is there so much bigotry? What the holy shit?
Yeah. Yeah. How the thing that I don't get, like, because one of the justifications for colonization was that like the indigenous people weren't using the land, quote unquote, using the land in the way that it was perceived that they should have been. But it looks to me like they had, they had agriculture, they were growing crops, they had towns and cities basically. Like, like, what are you talking about? They weren't using the land. Like, you mean you didn't get to own it? That's what you mean, right?
They're just lying.
Yeah.
They're literally just lying.
Yeah. Yeah. Nonsense.
Yeah, colonialism bullshit.
Yeah. But I suppose we don't have much left on this video that we were going to watch. Yep. So,
middle archaic period. This is a house that's been built on top of the image of the house, built on top of a mound, which I don't think the house is there anymore, but it seems to suggest that, again, you have people moving into the territory have no idea what they're moving into. So to them, it's just a hill, but really and truly, it's archaeological evidence. So today it is, I believe, a park or a state park, and it's being preserved. Interesting name, Horace Island. This is San Marco Island to the poorer one of us, because San Marco Island is a private island for the wealthy. There's a bunch of condos and big houses. It's down by Fort Myers. But Mr. Hoare, Horr, had a house. And so the bottom left shows you the picture of what's left of the house, the ruins of the house. But they have found shell mounds surrounding, and these are kind of the image that you see in the right. So shell mounds and seem to indicate that this is the late archaic period. And so you have some burials underwater, but the fact that they have found a number of mounds with archaeological evidence that seems to point to how people were living, what they were living off of in terms of diet, and the connections between themselves and the other communities that they're trading with. So again, we have widespread trading. So why is this important to understand Florida history? Again, I think what it comes down to is we have to understand how the environment impacted these people, what they lived off of, how they survived, what their diet was, and how they made a living. It certainly will play a big role in terms of colonization, especially when you have the Spanish in St. Augustine, who literally are starving to death, and the only way that they can survive is by trading with the Indians. So it helps to indicate that in many cases, the layer of trading that the Indians and Native peoples have established, the Spanish just kind of overlay that whole network with themselves. And so they kind of plug into these existing networks of trade that really go throughout the entire North America. So it is kind of an interesting development. So,
all right, that's where we've got our end.
Right on.
I can tell that I'm getting a little older because I have to blow the screen up to 150% in order to read. My eyes don't like the small print anymore.
Yeah, it happens. But at least you're out here doing.
Yep. That's right.
I appreciate it.
For sure. So I guess we got to start at the Seminole War.
All right.
The Red Stick refugees.
If there's a picture on your side, talk about it. Or just if there is, I said.
No, I don't have one here.
Okay.
So, Yeah.
I'm just saying, like what I'm saying, if you're reading down, I'm saying if you see a picture, just
Talk about the picture as I see it.
I will show it at the same time.
Okay. The Red Stick refugees who arrived in Florida after the Creek War tripled the Seminole population and strengthened the tribe's Muskogee characteristics. In 1814, British forces landed in West Florida and began arming the Seminoles. The British had built a strong fort on the Apalachicola River at Prospect Bluff, and in 1815, after the end of the War of 1812, offered it with all its ordnance, muskets, cannons, powder, shot, cannonballs, to the locals, the Seminoles. Seminoles and Maroons, who were escaped slaves. A few hundred Maroons constituted a uniformed corps of colonial Marines who had military training, however rudimentary and disciplined, but whose English officers had departed. The Seminole only wanted to return to their villages, so the Maroons became owners of the fort. It soon came to be called, quote unquote, Negro Fort by Southern planters. It was widely known among enslaved blacks by word of mouth, a place nearby where blacks were free and had guns, as in Haiti. The white pro-slaveholding planters.
Pause for a second about Haiti. Yeah. Do you know about Haiti?
I know some things about Haiti, yeah.
Did you know that they had to buy their they had a slave revolt that basically took over the country, but they actually bought their freedom from France. I think it is.
Yeah, and
it actually bankrupted the country, and that's why they ended up poor.
Yeah.
Not to mention about all kinds of other stuff that happened too, but to the starting thing, that was absolutely devastating. And just think of how unethical that is to make them buy their own freedom. I mean,
yeah, that's right.
What the,
Yeah, if I recall correctly, Haiti was punished by multiple countries, like they wouldn't trade with them because they didn't like that they had freed themselves. So they put trade embargoes on, and they wouldn't like actually trade with Haiti because of that.
It's sickening.
And that includes Canada. Like I know that includes like
what so, we did a video on Canada. They're not free from shame. No,
that's right. Did lots of very not cool things.
Yeah.
The white pro-slaveholding planters correctly felt its simple existence inspired escape or rebellion by the oppressed African Americans, and they complained to the U.S. government. The Maroons had not received training in how to aim the fort's cannons. After notifying the Spanish governor, who had very limited resources and who said he had no orders to take action, U.S. General Andrew Jackson quickly destroyed the fort in a famous and picturesque, though tragic, incident in 1816 that has been called the deadliest cannon shot in American history. The Seminole continued to welcome fugitive black slaves and raid American settlers, leading the U.S. to declare war in 1817. The following year, General Andrew Jackson invaded Florida with an army that included more than 1,000 Lower Creek warriors. They destroyed Seminole towns and captured Pensacola.
And so people know, not all of the Seminoles, but a large portion are Creek and Muskogee, which is actually called Muskogee Creek, which actually both those and other ones are connected to a larger language family.
That's cool. Jackson's
so made a comment. So this was Creeks against Seminoles, and it was actually, it really should be understood as Creeks against Creeks.
Right, yeah.
In a sense, Seminoles, what they were called, probably first by the Spanish, then by the Creek or other tribes, in a sense, to call them that. And but they actually were originally, some of them, because they speak the Creek and Muskogee language. Seminoles do.
Okay.
So I'm just to help people grasp.
Yeah. So the Lower Creek are actually attacking other Creek.
There you go. Or you could say the slaveholding Creek in the north were attacking the Free Creek non-slave, free, emancipating, because they were taking and freeing some slaves or
Right.
allowing them to come. But freeing in the fact of, say you raided somewhere and you kill the people, well, the slaves might be there. They say, you want to come with us? I mean,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
anyways, I'm saying, so they some are freed and some are in a sense just runaways, and so runaway slaves, and go to the Seminoles. But
Okay.
what I'm trying to say is so people can understand, when it says that they came with Creek, well, they came with probably Northern Creek, who probably had slaves or believed in that. And so, and some of the slaves that ran away, just think, I mean, probably some of them were from, the native tribes, not
Right.
just from the whites, but, and it's not that the natives, in a sense, did the same treatment. They had all kinds of different treatments, but it wasn't always the same as the white masters or whatever.
Right.
But a lot of the ones in the South were kind of copying Americanism sort of in general.
Okay.
So just so people know, just like I think it was the Cherokee that one of the ones over there, but I think it was them that became official U.S. citizens and then could not understand why America was treating them different. Because America is racist. It has always been a racist country.
Yeah.
Can we say that again? America was founded on racism and is still a racist country today.
Yeah, that's right. Regardless of where your citizenship is, it's very racist.
Yeah. And let's just say, if it isn't, it should be real easy to then change these history books, change these freaking bigoted laws. I mean, the simple things. I mean, wasn't even saying drop capitalism, but you should. But just
That's
saying,
right.
you still could
Yeah.
make it less heinous. How's that?
Yeah, that's right.
But,
So Jackson's victory forced Spain to sign the Adams-Onis Treaty in 1819, ceding Florida to the U.S. In 1823, a delegation of Seminole chiefs met with the new U.S. governor of Florida, expressing their opposition to proposals that would reunite them with the Upper and Lower Creek, partly because the latter tribes intended to enslave the Black Seminoles. Instead, the Seminoles agreed to move onto a reservation in inland central Florida. Miko William McIntosh led the Lower Creek warriors who fought alongside the U.S. in the Creek War and the First Seminole War. The son of the Loyalist officer of the same name who had recruited a band of Hitchiti to the British cause, McIntosh never knew his white father. He had family ties to some of Georgia's planter elite and after the wars became a wealthy cotton planter. Through his mother, he was born into the prominent Wind clan of the Creek, as the Creek had a matrilineal system of descent and inheritance. He achieved his chieftainship because of her. He was also related to Alexander McGillivray and William Weatherford, both mixed-race Creek. In the late 1810s and early 1820s, McIntosh helped create a centralized police force called Lawmenders, establish written laws, and form a national Creek Council. Later in the decade, he came to view relocation as inevitable. In 1821, Creek lands east of Flint River at the first. In 1821, McIntosh and several other chiefs, including Chief Shalokta, signed away Lower Creek lands east of the Flint River at the First Treaty of Indian Springs. As a reward, McIntosh was granted 1,000 acres or 4 square kilometers at this treaty site, where he built a hotel to attract tourists to local hot springs. The Creek National Council responded by prescribing the death penalty for tribesmen who surrendered additional land. Georgian settlers continued to pour into Indian lands, particularly after the discovery of gold in northern Georgia. In 1825, McIntosh and his first cousin, Georgia Governor George Troup, a leading advocate of Indian removal, signed the Second Treaty of Indian Springs at his hotel. Signed by 6 other Lower Creek chiefs, the treaty ceded the last Lower Creek lands to Georgia and allocated substantial sums to relocate the Muskogee to the Arkansas River. It provided for an equally large payment directly to McIntosh. In April, the old Red Stick Minois led about 200 lawmenders to execute McIntosh according to their law. They burned his upper Chattahoochee plantation. A delegation of the Creek National Council, led by the speaker Opoth Le Ahola, traveled to Washington, D.C. to protest the 1825 treaty. They convinced President John Quincy Adams that the treaty was invalid and negotiated the more favorable Treaty of Washington, 1826. The tribe ceded their lands to Georgia in return for $200,000, although they were not required to move west. Troup ignored the new treaty and ordered the eviction of the Muskogee from their remaining lands in Georgia without compensation, mobilizing state militia when Adams threatened federal intervention. In the aftermath of the Treaty of Fort Jackson and the Treaty of Washington, the Muskogee were confined to a small strip of land in present-day east central Alabama. Andrew Jackson was inaugurated President of the United States in 1829, and with his inauguration, the government's stance towards Indians turned harsher. Jackson abandoned the policy of his predecessors of treating different Indian groups as separate nations. Instead, he aggressively pursued plans to move all Indian tribes living east of the Mississippi River to Oklahoma. Quote, "Friends and brothers, by permission of the Great Spirit above and the voice of the people, I have been made President of the United States, and now speak to you as your father and friend, and request you to listen. Your warriors have known me long. You know I love my white and red children, and always speak with a straight and not with a forked tongue. That I have always told you the truth. Where you now are, you and my white children are too near to each other to live in harmony and peace. Your game is destroyed, and many of your people will not work and till the earth. Beyond the great river Mississippi, where a part of your nation has gone, your father has provided a country large enough for all of you, and he advises you to remove to it. There, your white brothers will not trouble you, and they will have no claim to the land. And you can live upon it and all your children as long as the grass grows or the water runs in peace and plenty. It will be yours forever. For the improvements in this country where you
Pause for a
now
second.
live." Yeah.
We know that was bullshit.
No, that's right. Yeah, obviously.
Literally.
Yeah.
More American bullshit. Yeah, more treaties that were freaking hot air.
Yeah, exactly. He 100% didn't. Well, I don't know if he personally didn't stick to this, but America definitely did not stick to this.
And that's why I said before. Someone said, "Well, those people are long dead," and I'm like, "America's still alive."
Yeah, that's right.
And the cultures and the people, indigenous people, are still alive. They're the descendants. You absolutely still have not rectified.
Yeah.
To me, that's like I said. How can you like? I just don't get like these people that like, I'm so proud to be in whatever country. And it's like, especially when they have horrid shit and still to this day have not even made amends for it.
No, that's right.
Just
And then they blame, like, so indigenous people got shuffled off. All the land was taken. They got put into a specific region. Then that gets taken.
Exactly.
And then the people that live now, or like the colonizers who live now, have the audacity to be mad when indigenous people don't fit in, to like their white American or white Canadian culture. And
they don't have to.
You've been pushing them into the corners of society, the world, over and over again, so that they don't have enough to live on. They don't have anything that they can produce because it's the shittiest land. Like, it's just fucking, it's ignorance, and then it's a lack of accountability on top of it, right?
But my point would be, even if they were all wealthy, that doesn't mean you don't owe them anything.
That's right. Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Okay, like let's say they all somehow made it anyways, like the American dream. That doesn't mean you don't owe them shit. I mean, what you get that their whatever success or failure has nothing to do with your ethical violation to begin with.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to be accountable for the actions. Like America has to be accountable for the actions. Canada has to be accountable for the actions.
Especially just like I said, I really hate like I heard Biden that said last time he did some, maybe not this last time, but one time before, when he did some kind of speech or whatever, and he's like, America stood for 200 years of freedom. Every time I hear that, it's just so vile. You know what I'm saying? Look at all these treaties. Look at how we've been law and order from the conception. No, we have not.
Law and order for in whatever way it benefits the landholding elites and whites and
Supremacists.
white supremacists essentially.
Well, you get what I'm saying. So, and then worse, I hate when they even like some people in the conservative, and they'll go, oh, well, America, is only great because of us. Like, oh my God, you're wrong. It's not great
so
anyways.
Wrong. Yeah.
Especially if all this horror and shit, and it's how the hell's any of that great?
Yeah, that's right.
Come on.
No, it's rather, I don't know, nonsense. Yeah, so it will be yours forever. For the improvements in the country where you now live, and for all the stock which you cannot take with you, your father will pay you a fair price. That's from President Andrew Jackson addressing the Creeks, 1829. At Jackson's request, the United States Congress opened a fierce debate on an Indian removal bill. In the end, the bill passed, but the vote was close. The Senate passed the measure 28-19, while in the House it squeaked by 102-97. Jackson signed the legislation into law June 30th, 1830. Following the Indian Removal Act in 1832, the Creek National Council signed the Treaty of Casseta, ceding their remaining lands east of the Mississippi to the U.S. and accepting relocation to the Indian Territory. Most Muskogee were removed to Indian Territory during the Trail of Tears in 1834, with additional removals.
Pause for a second. So people know a lot of times when they're referencing the Indian Territory, just think of it kind of like Oklahoma.
Right.
So it's a little more.
That's what it was at the time. Yeah,
it's a little more than Oklahoma, I think, but it's at least Oklahoma.
Right.
In fact, the one judge ruled that actually the eastern half of Oklahoma is all native land.
Right. Yeah.
And that means like half the state is. Yeah, because why? Because it's Indian Territory.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, remember when they said they get it forever, as long as the grass grows?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You know the definition legally of forever?
Forever.
Yeah, that's why when they went to court, the U.S. lost.
Yeah.
Because forever is pretty explanatory.
Pretty clear. Yeah, it's pretty clear language. Yeah.
As long as the grass grows, yeah, that kind of.
Yep. Yeah. So most Muskogee were removed to Indian Territory during the Trail of Tears in 1834, with additional removals following the Creek War of 1836, although some remained behind. By 1836, when extensive Creek removal was underway, Ina Emathala emerged as leader of the Lower Creeks. Their desire was only to be left alone in their homeland, and General Winfield Scott was ordered to capture Ina Emathala, and captured with Emathala were some 1,000 other people. And their racial colors were black, red, and white, according to Bert Ferguson, Indians of the Southeast then and now. The Muskogee people continue to serve Chaya and share a vibrant tribal identity through events such as annual festivals, stickball games, and language classes. The stomp dance and the green corn ceremony are revered gatherings and rituals. While families include people who are directly related to each other, clans are composed of all people who are descendants of the same ancestral clan grouping. Like many Native American nations, the Muskogee Creek are matrilineal. Each person belongs to the clan of their mother, who belongs to the clan of her mother. Inheritance and property are passed through the maternal line. Hereditary chiefs were born into certain clans. Biological
So
fathers.
pause this for a second.
Yep.
So, do you remember what I told you before? That to me, whenever I hear clan and stuff, especially when they attach certain things to clans, like birds or things or whatever, or a plant or something, to me that they're talking totemism in a sense. That aspect, that sort of ritualistic connection to nature.
Because they're like I guess associating the animal with their clan in a way that makes it almost seem reverent.
Correct, but also the concept that the clans is the right order,
Mm-hmm.
like that this is the way you should, in a sense, do society. It's
Ah,
like a religious. It's you get what I'm saying. It's cultural religious, or they call it socio-cultural religious in a sense,
okay.
because it's kind of social behaviors. It is religion and it's also culture. So it's hard to, yeah, because
Yep.
it's a modern thing to say that religion is separate from culture.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So trying to explain ancient people's beliefs, it's like that's like sometimes they'll say traditional beliefs. What you really mean is that that's their culture beliefs that
Yeah. Yeah.
that culture had.
Which obviously incorporates their religious
Religion.
beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I told you before. I have a thing where I had an argument with the archaeologist about that because he said that you're making it, because I say that religion, like language, is a cultural product.
Right.
So you can see it move with cultures, and you can see it transferred between cultures. It's a cultural product.
Yeah. For sure.
Like pottery and stone tools and all kinds of
Like all the other things.
Yeah, like all the other shit. I mean, I'm not saying it's some special thing. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. It's not special. It's just
Right.
like all the other stuff.
Just like all the other stuff. Yeah, for sure. So biological fathers are important within the family system, but must come from another clan than the mother. But within the clan, it is the mother's brother, the mother's nearest blood relation, who functions as the primary teacher, protector, disciplinarian, and role model for children, especially for boys. Clan members do not claim blood relation, but consider each other as family due to their membership in the same clan.
Right. So see what I'm saying? It's outside of like a genetic thing. It's a culture thing.
Yeah.
That's why it can spread between cultures, because it's not really connected to just a genetic thing. So anyway, but I'm saying, but the clan system, and see the Nadane, the Twicket are the clan system, and a lot of the Nadanes have that. So not the only ones, but I'm just saying. My point was just saying, I think that stuff at least came in with them. I don't know that there was. I do think totemism is older, so it's not like they didn't have clans. But I mean, I think it became more and more hierarchical in a sense. That's all I talked before. I think that from certainly the Nadane down. I mean, from coming in, I'm talking about people's coming in from 7,000 down, from 7,000 to 5,000, almost the entire Earth, everything gets shooken up. Like like more hierarchy.
Right.
Everywhere.
Okay.
So, and the fact that they came over about that time, they could have brought some of that with them, and certainly they exhibit it even at their earliest break. And so, I'm just saying that kind of culture, and just like people know too, there is DNA in the Mayans from the Dane. They don't know exactly how it got down there, but there's also some of that similar DNA I told you in other areas too. I think that they came in, once again, so not all of them, but a few people moved around. And if you know something, you don't need a lot of people. You only need one.
Yeah.
To, in a sense, and we know that somebody took corn from Mexico and went all the way down into Peru and gave it to them. Somehow, or somehow it got there, because of course it could have jumped several cultures. I'm not saying, but still, somehow corn went all the way down. And some of, like I said, the DNA you see it in weird places, which you would think, because there's places in can't remember the state, but it's above Brazil, I think. But anyways, over there on the other side, there is same DNA as the Dane speakers, the majority of them. So some of them, but see, like even the Danes, so like they have Q, but they also have the C, which is C, and it's a specific one. There's it's C3 something, but now they call it C217. Yeah, I think so. It's C217 or whatever. But anyways, this is the one that classifies, in a sense, both, like, say, relates to, say, Genghis Khan, in a sense, and all the way to the people that are in the Dane. It's a similar genetic of C. But anyways, but I'm saying, so they have a certain kind of culture that comes in and brings it all the way down. Yes. So, and we do know that some they came down at least to California, let's say, in a sense, because certainly Northern California, but Southern California at 5,000, those people went all the way down also to Peru or Ecuador or whatever they came.
Okay.
So we know that that tribe, whatever, came down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly why, but anyways, I'm just saying people are moving around, and so ideas get spread. So that,
for sure,
like I told you, I try to make all my speculation off of actual understanding what's happening,
right?
And then try to think, well, what happened when they came? And because the reason I say 5,000 is important, because stuff happens in the north at 5,000 and happens in Peru at 5,000. It seems like, how could these be connected? Well, I don't know, but people from California 5,000 years ago did go to Peru, and there's DNA that shows that also C217 goes to both Peru and to above Brazil, whatever.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember what fucking top of my head right now, but it's hard, like, to people understand. I don't like to learn things. It's not like it's just that wanting to truly understand the reality, the truth, whatever, it requires you to have to learn geography and culture and language and pottery and animal husbandry, just agriculture, all kinds of stuff. Like I have, because, but then, of course, as you know, I mean, when you learn all that and you're not talking about every single part of it all the time, you start to forget a little bit.
For sure. Yeah.
So
it's too much information to just retain just on the top of your tongue all the time.
Right. I know a lot of stuff, man. Right? Wouldn't you feel, after talking to me for a little while, wouldn't you say something like that? I know a lot.
Oh yeah. I think you're definitely one of the more well-educated people I know on this subject, on ancient history and just in general.
Right.
So,
I mean, you start talking about places of the world, I can go anywhere. Any place
right.
you want to directly talk about, I have something to say, and I know about it. Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's and also through time, which is a lot of people, aren't always as good at. I know stuff from like millions of years ago, the first hominids, all the way down to, like 5,000, 4,000 years ago, all over the world, almost every culture and language and everything. I mean, I have done a lot of research.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. Like I can, obviously you have absorbed a lot of the stuff that you've read and learned about, and like we talk about it, and some of it sticks and some of it doesn't. And then we talk about it again and something else sticks and some of it doesn't.
Right.
So like, so obviously the amount of work that you've put into learning this stuff is pretty extreme.
It's been my life. I dedicated myself to it because I realized that I have the ability to also kind of, have a different perspective, let's say, just, the simplest way. I have a different perspective from being an anarchist, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And I feel that what can I do to benefit the world? And this is why also people didn't grasp, like, why did I not focus on anarchism, let's say, or socialism instead of atheism? The reason I focused on atheism first, because I realized if we can't even get people to reality, how the hell do we then talk about reality problems? I mean,
It
we
does,
can't even
yeah.
get them too. We're not even on the same page, is what I'm trying to say. It's like
Right.
when the Democrats feel like they can't talk to Republicans. Yeah, we can't talk to you when you're a capitalist because you're not grasping, or you're
Because you
not
don't share the same
anarchist.
reality as we do.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
you're not an anarchist, so you don't see the hierarchies everywhere.
Yeah,
You don't see
that's
how
right.
they're detrimental. You don't see how cultures are similar. When you stop this, see, I feel like it's probably easier as an anarchist because I don't think like America first. I don't even think of America. People, you know what I'm saying? I just think humans. I mean, I'm on such a different
Right.
wavelength. They're like, well, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from planet Earth. I don't know. Where the fuck are you from?
Yeah, that's right.
But
Yeah.
I'm just making a comment. So the desire to learn more, that's why I also feel like it's anarchist to learn a bunch about
Yeah.
all these different cultures and everything, because we're the ones that I feel like the few that do care, that aren't in a sense an academic, that's their thing. You know,
Yeah, the whole not believing in borders thing, it really like it expands your humanism to the entire world instead of like those people that I happen to know, identify with in my region or whatever.
totally. And I think it did, like I told you, I know that learning all this stuff made me a more kinder person, because
Yeah.
I felt like, once again, what we don't understand, we can come to fear. Things that we fear, we often learn to hate.
Yeah, that's
That
right.
which we hate, we usually seek to destroy. So it is upon us to not be afraid of the unknown, because that is the first stage, in a sense, of this happening, this out of control feeling that then ends up in violence often.
Yeah.
We're
Yep. That's right.
scared, and then those people are different, or thing is different, or whatever. I don't understand, and not us and them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and you see that like a lot with like this current anti-trans kind of rhetoric that's going around.
Yeah,
Like undoubtedly, it's going to cause even more violence than it already has because of the intentional spread of fear and the ignorance that people have about this situation, about trans people, about even drag queens, right? Like people are just so in their own pockets, their own little corners of the world, that that it's easy to manipulate them into being afraid of somebody just because of you know whatever nonsense they come up with.
but then to me, that's why I think it goes with my issue about masculinity, what they were portraying it per se, not my personal thing, but
Right.
how they're portraying it is that, in a sense, relates to that. So if this is going on and society is changing and I feel uncomfortable, I don't have to feel uncomfortable, because they're wrongly attacking my masculinity,
Right.
which is
Right.
to hate trans people, or to hate gays, or to, right, because
Yeah.
anti-feminist, or whatever. You get my point, is that all of that to me is kind of goes together,
Yep. Absolutely. It's
or
all
certainly
tied
can
together.
relate to each other. How's that?
Yeah. It's all tied in at the same kind of like reactionary, like
Right. Yes.
pro, like status quo of 50 years ago kind of mentality.
Yeah, but like I said, it's invalid anyways. All the stuff they're
It
saying
is.
is ridiculous,
Yeah.
and they're acting like it's some new problem. It's literally not.
Yeah, like the thing is too, like I'll bet if we looked, we could find books going back decades, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, talking about the crisis in masculinity.
Oh yeah,
Because this is a common trope. Whenever you need to stoke up some fear, well, you pretend that masculinity is under attack. You pretend that it's these radicals, it's these feminists, it's these
right.
well, what we call now is the
Trans people
LGBT.
that are hurting
That's
our
right.
masculinity.
That's
That's
right.
all I was
Yeah.
trying to say. Is that it also is stupid, because a lot of, in a sense, lesbians, in a butch or whatever, at least, and some other, there's ones that call boys or whatever, or there's some other names they have. But my point is, they are masculine projecting, whether or not they're trans in any kind of way,
Right.
or gender. It doesn't even matter. I'm saying they're, whatever they are, they're lesbian, and so they're in a biological female body, supposedly, right? So, and they're exhibiting masculinity. So, like I said, and then what happens if you have two guys that are gay? Could they both be masculine, or is masculinity once again attached to sexuality and all kinds of other stuff, right? Just like one of the things in that ridiculous chick's statement was that one of the things that she feels men do is procreation. And I thought, oh my God, you can hear her bullshit right there. Procreation. So I mean, what the fuck?
What does that even mean? Like
that
men
procreation,
do procreation?
is
What?
Oh, and she also said self-mastery, which I addressed. Self-mastery. You say men do this naturally. Do you know what self-mastery means? And in the simplest way, I talk about it a lot too, but it's a psychology type of thing I'm coming from, not their nonsense. But
okay.
Self-mastery really is like what I do, right? I do a lot of self-mastery. You would say this because my natural nature can be sometimes more aggressive. I'm certainly intelligent. I know a lot. I could put people down. I don't do that.
Right.
I even
you're in control of yourself.
I have self-mastery of myself. When you're able to, in fact, it almost says it in the definition. If you're able to, in a sense, control yourself, act appropriately, so in society, like, I don't know, like a good person.
Yep.
So if you can act appropriately and you're also confident and you can carry out what your goal was and you're able to not be, in a sense, shook from it. Like, I'm not easily shaken to become violent or whatever, or to be mean or whatever. Even if someone's mean to me, people have said "fuck you" to me, and I still talk to them, and it often make them, not so much now because I'm out of doing the activism thing as my life, but before I've sat 2 days and talked to someone who told me "fuck you," and at the end, I've had people say that they apologized, they were wrong, but because I was able to dig through all that nonsense.
Yeah.
But without being personally affected, in a sense. But that is self-mastery. And you're saying everybody literally you're saying, like in the video, they talk about how men are getting punished more, for bad behavior and do more crime and do more of this. So they're having all these struggles. So they don't have self-mastery is what you are literally saying.
Right.
So why you attach self-mastery to masculinity when all these supposed masculine men are not doing anything of the kind? Yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Again, it's the attributing it to like a lack of masculinity, where like there's a lot of other variables going on when there's an increase in crime,
which they never talk about.
Right.
She didn't list, well, I think it's masculinity, which she could have been honest and gone, but what research has shown is like this. But I think that they're just missing masculinity. Okay, now she's being somewhat honest.
Right. And then putting her perspective in opposition to it.
Correct.
Right. Which is
correct. We'll be honest. Instead of going, that men have 3 times the suicides. I mean, this is a catastrophe. This is like the worst depression. Men are in a free fall. That's and the shit. I was like watching, going, "What the?"
Yeah. No. Well, and the question is always like, what is she even actually looking at? Like, is she looking at like universal statistics? Is she saying like, oh well, the crime rate among white men is going up, or the suicide rate among white men? Is she caring about men of other colors and other
actually
races?
all the other colors, the non-white, actually have higher? Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go figure. Hey.
Yeah.
Go figure. Yeah.
Right.
The people that get mistreated.
No, actually, it's people that are being. I think African Americans and Native Americans are the highest.
Yeah, the people that are mistreated by the culture.
Right. So it must be masculinity, not racism. It certainly looks like a racist thing.
Yeah. No, it's fucking like, it's not even close to correct to attribute it to a lack of masculinity.
Right. It's like saying it's a lack in belief in unicorns.
Right. Yeah.
That's what it is. Cory?
there is a higher number of suicide rate among people who don't believe in unicorns anymore.
But it's to me, it's literally like that ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
yeah.
Yeah, like I guess I mean if a person just wanted to be like really the bare minimum of fucking logic, right? Like it's correlation, not causation, right? Like piracy goes up when cereal prices increase or some shit like that.
But once again, you're doing like what I do. Even if it's a speculation, you're demanding that it has some logical basis or
Right.
evidentiary basis. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like you should.
Yeah, that's right. Just assume things, like just say this is happening, therefore it's this.
No, but I want to try too before we do our next video, because I want the next video on us.
Okay.
But I want to play the video so we don't straw man him in any way. They can listen to them and see their faces, how he gets all mad.
Oh, geez,
like,
that's gonna be
indignant, and he keeps laughing inappropriate too. To me,
course.
there's you do laughing more appropriately. She does laughing in a way that's
very strange spots.
It's like it's almost like they're buying this.
Oh, geez,
I mean,
yeah.
But once again, that could be just my feelings. But I'm telling you that, yeah, it's off. Watch how she laughs. It's kind of off. It's not socially like appropriate. Like even when they say something to her, she's like, I don't know. Just anyways. And they're agreeing with her. She kept smiling and things. Yeah, she's like, because she wrote a book, which also feminists disagree with, because she says that consent is not enough. Yeah, because she says consent also has to caring for the other person. Like, wait a minute, that's a relationship thing. There's a sex thing and a relationship. Not that they can't go together, but the demand that all consent requires what the no. People get to here's a flat. They get to consent.
Yeah.
Or not. I mean, you don't get to decide. I mean, they say, well, they're not having fulfilling relationships. Once again, it's logical fallacy thinking, because them not having good relationships does not equal your result.
Yeah, that's right. That's unrelated, actually.
That's what I'm saying. Once again, it's a way of, but that's what they do in that thing. They put stuff together, which is also, I feel, kind of like that Homo Naladi, the video, like towards the end, they start putting some things together, and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You're relating things that don't go together. But
yeah.
Yeah.
And to me also the greatest thing about science thinking, or even like what I try to do, you put all the stuff out there and let people judge you. The fact that you don't try to be careful with your thinking. No one should have to judge you. You should judge yourself.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
that's the difference of being an honest thinker, right? Is like trying to you look at what you said or what you believe and you go, well, shit, actually, I don't know if I'm justified to believe that or say that.
Right. Which I believe, there's a thing, so just so people know, I'm not exactly saying, once again, like a lot of my philosophy thinking is somewhat a little bit could be related to people, but a lot of times is just mind. I don't, so like justificationism, I say that's one of the core of my things is justificationism. You have to justify what you're saying.
Right.
Just say shit. So
yeah,
there has to be some, like I said, logic or evidentiary reason for what the hell you're saying, and they can't be too far of a jump.
Yeah, that's right.
So in other words, let's go to this. So like in the Homo Naladi thing, they show us what he calls a stone tool, but it doesn't look very chipped to me. I've seen a lot of stone tools. It could be just a rock that could have broken off. They're like in a cave, whatever. And there are some smaller rocks, but he already says it has to be a stone tool. That already to me is irritating. You don't fucking know that. And also, like I said, then you need, not you, who does Paleolithic bones or whatever, send that to a person that only does stone tools.
Right.
And from that time zone, from 250,000 years ago.
And
now, if they agree that's what it is, under, microscopes and whatever, then you could call it a stone tool.
Yeah. But until you do that, you're just speculating.
Because it doesn't have clear chip marks. He says maybe these are them. I don't totally buy that. What I saw, I'm just making a comment. So I would be more careful. And just think, I'm not even an archaeologist, and I'm being careful. And I'm actually, as you know, often they feel I'm not careful enough.
Right.
So just
right.
imagine how bad this person is being. Right? If archaeologists think that Damien can go off where it is too far for them to feel comfortable, just think, if I'm watching that show and what they said is too far for me to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That should make you go, yeah, that's not good.
For sure.
And so to me, and then also to say the next thing he said is then that I know they use this tool to look how it fits the hand perfect. I'm like, oh my God, don't say that till we know it's a stone tool.
Right.
You're already fantasy building,
Yeah, that's right. You've gone from this might be a stone tool to look how perfectly it fits in the hand.
Right. And then say, oh, and it carved these here, glyphs.
So now you're even
art. It's just like jump. You don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know that.
Yeah. You don't even know the start. So your next steps are all unjustified.
See, now you right? You get it, Corey. It's like a logical fallacy. Exactly. I don't care how many tiers of mountains you build on top of the logical fallacy.
Yeah.
You just pull the sheet out from under it and the entire thing is gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Because if that's not a stone tool, then none of what you just said makes any sense.
None. Because see, this is the problem. They have never found a stone tool associated with Holman and Laddie. And this also, to me, doesn't exactly look like a stone tool. It's an iffy. That's what I would say. I would just, if I looked at that and everything they showed, now I would go, well, I don't know. I don't think that is a stone tool is what I would say. My opinion, it's not. I don't see enough chips. It doesn't look human intentionally fractured. It looks like it could have been rock fractured, just fell on the ground. Now, could a hominid pick up something on the ground? Maybe, but now you're going to have to justify why you're saying that. And that it wasn't just laying there, period. Remember, it's been sitting there for 250,000 years. A lot of things can fall in that time or whatever.
Yep.
And he's like, oh, and they placed it in its hand. I'm like, dude, you don't know that. I was watching the show going, wow, this is starting to hit some Graham Hancock going on here.
Right. Yeah.
So it's good sort of at first, but once like about the middle on, it gets not so good. And then right towards the last quarter of an end, I mean, it just, to me, I'm like, yeah, I don't even think like Corey doesn't know nothing I know. And we watch that and go,
I don't know about that.
I think some skepticism. You guys don't sound you sound like religious believers. I mean, yeah. Which is important to learn all this kind of stuff because you can be fooled. That's also why I want to talk about this stuff because they'll say, oh, they just want things they don't deserve. That's wrong. Look at all the shit. So let's learn a little more and then we'll wrap it up. Just
okay. So we were on biological fathers. But this where are we? This is expressed by their using the same kinship titles for both family and clan relations. For example, clan members of approximately the same age consider each other brother and sister, even if they have never met before. Because of this system, the Muskogee Creek children born of European fathers belonged to their mothers' clans and were part of their tribal communities. High-ranking daughters of chiefs often found it advantageous to marry European traders who would provide their families with goods. Muskogee Creek believed young men who became educated in European ways could help them manage under the new conditions related to colonialism while preserving important Muskogee Creek cultural institutions. The Muskogee clans are as follows. The Bear Clan, the Beaver Clan, and I apologize, there are names after these, but it would take a very long time for me to try to pronounce them all.
No problem. But going back to like I told you, clans, that name. As soon as I hear clans, I already think totemism. As soon as I hear the word clan, okay, it's totem.
Yeah,
totemism,
and then
related, I'm saying, or referenced. And then as soon as they start saying, well, we're the clan this or that, yeah, remember I told you already?
Yeah. Yeah, like then that's your totem almost, right? Like that's your
Right. It is. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. And so, and just so people know, it's not that I'm saying, when I say totemism is like all over the place, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but it's similar. The clan
Right.
system is similar. They may do it a little bit different, have different animals, or maybe have, whatever.
Right, and different, like even like necessarily like kind of traditions within a clan system.
Oh, and also I told you we'll do the thing about totemism of clans, but there's one called I think it's clan totemism. No, not clan. But anyways, one is like individual totemism, group. That's what it is. Individual totemism and group totemism. I couldn't think for a second which one it was. But I'm just saying there's also not just one kind. There's one that's more individualistic and stuff. That's more like a spirit animal. Just thinking in a saying, in a sense, because you can, in a sense, choose it, or it can be.
Okay, yeah.
Like at this time of year, there was an earthquake, and so that references. That's more individualistic. When you hear that kind of stuff, it's, to me, more the group is already more established in a sense, and also group is more, or can tend to be more like matriarchal, right? Like that thing, where the other one is more patriarchal, almost exclusively.
Okay, interesting.
Like way they do stuff, but it can be switched. Once again, it does not like 100%, but this is the common, just so you can grasp, like when you hear certain things, so you assume right there that this came off of probably the group totemism,
right?
See what I'm saying? Because they're matrilineal, matrilineal, whatever.
Yeah, matrilineal. Yeah,
matrilineal. There you go.
That's right.
I know what it means, but
this is Words with Damien and Cory.
Yeah, and people, like I said, I may know a lot of like facts, but on how to pronounce things, yeah, I kind of suck.
Yeah. Blame my European education system.
Yeah,
that's what I say.
Well, mine would be I blame my upbringing. It was horrid, so that hurt my desire for school and all that.
Yeah.
But I think for someone who really shouldn't have even graduated high school because of what my lack of effort, I had to. In fact, I was so bad when I went to the Job Corps after I supposedly graduated. They told me that I didn't even know enough to be out of fucking sixth grade. So they stuck me back in school, even though I had already graduated. They said, "Wow, wrong. No one should have ever graduated you." But I've really tried really hard, and also I'm smart. So I mean, those two things together has helped me.
Yeah, I didn't graduate high school. I got my GED when I was in my early 30s.
Yeah.
But I did take a year and a half of university when I was in my early 20s because they let me in as a mature student. So, but yeah, like I didn't actually discover that I cared about learning until I was in my early to mid 30s. And that's when I started actually trying and caring about stuff.
And you're like, and I didn't care about history until Cory met, Justin and Damien.
That's right. And I still had huge gaps in what I was learning. Yeah, for sure.
Right. But just think that both of us have helped you learn way more on history.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. No, how long have we been doing these videos together? Has this been 2 years?
It could be. I don't know. Exactly.
Something like that. Like it's been a while now, and I've learned. I think I've learned quite a bit since we started doing these.
It just never stops, does it?
Yeah, that's right.
Especially with me, it just never stops because there's always something that could lead to something else.
Well, and then like you say, like these stuff like this, like it's these long, very full of information videos and segments and whatnot and blogs. And so some of it sticks Some of it
Well,
doesn't.
yeah, and also like we're not going to finish the whole thing, obviously, because I think we're done. We're just going to wrap it up real soon. But
okay,
but the whole point isn't that we get every single thing read. I mean, that would be great, but it's also can be boring. And if you have more desire, I've already made the blog. It will be attached in the description or whatever.
That's right. If you make it this far into the video, go read the blog.
Yeah, because then anyways, you'll get to read the whole thing and it'll make more sense.
Yeah.
Because sure. I explained all, like these three videos and more, obviously, would take even longer.
Yeah.
With more stuff. But yeah, and like I said, I wanted to myself also know, because I think that it's just respectful. At the least I can do.
Yeah.
Is understand the indigenous reality of the area I live.
Yeah, I've been admittedly I've been kind of resistant to the idea of doing land acknowledgements at the start of my videos, because I kind of thought of it as like that kind of a white liberal guilt kind of thing.
No.
But I've also since in the past while I've reconsidered my position on this. And I think that I'm going to start doing land acknowledgements at the start of my videos, because cool. It is kind of one of those, like, it is like indigenous land. And it's just the fact that you're acknowledging it doesn't change anything, but it shows that at least you know where you are and that this is indigenous land. And
well, I think it also helps other people to remember. I don't think it has to be just white liberals. I mean, like when I bring up stuff a lot, I mean, it's just like I have posted for probably 5 years at least, I think, a simple meme that says that minority is a word applied to the majority of the world's population.
Yeah.
And I've shared that almost every week for like 5 years. You know why? You need to hear it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. My partner, she has a joke about white people, because
because it's easy.
When we are in the sun, we change color. When it's cold, we change color. And she says, "Why are we," referring to herself as, "Why are we the people of color when you are the ones that change color every time you go outside?"
That's funny.
Like, yeah, no, you're right.
Well, and some of us get change colors when we get embarrassed.
Yep, that's right.
Or happy or angry. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, we do change.
Yeah, so she thinks that we should be the people of color, and other groups should not have to deal with that label.
Did she ever look at the blog that I made?
I don't think she has. Yeah, I don't think she has. But I will remind her.
Was it? Yeah. Well, and we're gonna eventually do a video on it.
Right. Yeah.
So, because I do think it's important, because I think it's important to grasp once again how all these stuff spread around. Because but yeah, we're gonna do China after the next one. The next one is going to be about masculinity and that whole nonsense that I had to listen through.
Yeah, I did read about, I don't know, about half of the blog that you wrote.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I was reading it while I was eating my breakfast the other day.
Oh, and so so then you already kind of knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, some of it. Yeah, like I didn't watch the videos that you were referring to, but I read like the feminist critiques of the woman's perspective,
you like that?
And it's like, I was like, you can always tell when somebody's like kind of full of shit when they're talking about a crisis in masculinity.
Well, but I wanted to add that in the blog about these people, so you can grasp who you're or who's talking.
Yeah.
Well, then I don't know who I didn't know who either of those people were. Never seen them before in my life.
But there are people who do know them, and they're very critical.
Yes, obviously. Well, guess what? Now I'm one of them.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
I listened to that shit and I'm like, I was like flipping mad. I mean, I was
bet.
like walking around just like, what the? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was feeling less pro-social.
Right.
Let's just put it that way.
Fair.
It was seriously not making me happy.
Yeah.
But you know, that you know, just like people get all mad, you know, when you post sometimes, you know, Native American stuff or something. Because I remember I had this one guy really mad because I said,
Oh yeah.
you know, we forget Columbus Day, we should have Indigenous Day. So
Yeah.
first off, Columbus never even discovered America to begin with.
Yeah, that's right. And I got a little bit of pushback actually when I posted about how the genocide of Indigenous peoples is ongoing.
Mm.
Like, and like, I mean, it was some Twitter egg with like 32 followers or something. but you go like, okay, well, I mean, I could explain this to you, or you could look it up, like, or watch the video, because we talked about
Yes.
we talked about the ongoing genocide of the Indigenous people of North America /
People don't
Turtle
care.
Island. Yeah. They just want to maintain their own, you know, status quo, right? Especially if it benefits them.
Oh, especially, which is, like I said, to me, what it shows that that's not ethical. Is
Yeah.
it isn't.
Yep.
So, I mean, we're gonna definitely do one of these times, do a thing on ethics, because I want to explain ethics to both you and to everybody else. I have blogs on them, but I know it can be both simple and confusing because of how I talk about stuff. Like I say, I try to build my ethics in a sense. The foundation where I would start, the axiom, or whatever you want to say, is moral love and moral fear.
Mm-hmm.
Those two things in balance, and then appropriately said. So in a sense, moral fear is more the fear of injustice, which is very important.
Right.
But it's blind, like justice is blind, right? So sometimes you could say, well, anyone that kills someone should go to death. I don't believe this, but I'm just saying, I don't even believe in death penalty. But I'm saying that, and then I say, oh, well, it's a 3-year-old.
Right.
And it was an accident. Dropped the dad's gun, wasn't trying even to shoot it, and it went off. And it killed.
So who's,
but you get what I'm trying to say. So that's like in what I feel like happened with that, you know, masculinity shit. They say something and they think, aha. And I'm like, yeah, but what about this? And I go,
right. Yeah.
You know, you look like a fucking fool now, right? You just said that that a 3-year-old has to die for accidentally dropping a gun and accidentally killing his sister. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
All murderers should die, or whatever, you know, or whatever. All people that kill people should die, or something. You know, I'm just trying to say is that no, you need to have the other one.
Yeah.
Which is moral love, which is a care ethic that takes in consideration other aspects.
Yeah.
You can't just have a justice ethics. It will be incomplete.
Yeah, that's right.
And anyways, I don't even think that's how you should run the world, is just by having one system. That's why I'm saying these two things are in balance: moral fear and moral love. But anyways, I'll explain. I have a whole blog on all it and why it's valid. And anyways, but just trying to say that, you know, it's important to grasp, I feel, all these things, because then you can apply it in a more accurately. That's what I think axiologists, against someone who just has a random, you know, axiology, which is their value. They're not valuizing it. They're just emotionally doing it, you know, or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Culturally doing it. Like, I value the Bible because I was told to, you know. You burn, like, or the Quran. You burn the Quran. We kill literal humans.
Yeah, that's right.
If that is your answer, you have no clue of ethics. What the holy shit? Let's just say that burning the book made you madder than shit. Okay, there's no reason to kill people.
Yeah, exactly.
You can be super mad. I've been super mad and didn't have to kill no one.
Yeah, that's right.
In fact, I was super mad at that video watching about masculinity. Holy shit, did I get mad.
And I'm not trying to say they should die. So
I wasn't even saying we should harmed. I wouldn't even have been mean to them. I would have just said, that's not accurate. Your way you're portraying that, you're making like that's the cost. Are you saying that it hasn't been this way since the 50s?
Right.
Since we've been studying this? Suicide rates?
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying it's only towards I guess white men or something? You don't think there's any racial connotations? Oh, there's a huge racial disparity. Oh, well then.
Go figure.
No, how about this? It's mainly not the young. It's mainly the super old. Well, that doesn't sound like young boys, like you're saying.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, it's just how you're portraying how they're portraying is like. But yeah, I'm glad that you read some of it. That's cool. And but I was gonna say that video, I need you. It's in a web link or whatever. It's like in the blog. So I don't know, but we need to show that. So next time, make it somehow so we can.
We'll get her.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm just saying because I want to play what they say. I'll get the exact times. Hideous. I'll have to watch it again. Yeah. But I'll get. I'll try not to be so upset this time. I'll think, save it for Cory. Save it for Cory.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right.
Well, yeah, for sure.
But the reason why I feel it's important is not just to attack what they're doing, but also I want to show people how to attack it, why it's wrong, how to think differently about it. So it's not just like my opinion and their opinion. They're wrong. They're dead wrong. So It's not my opinion. It's absolutely a misrepresentation. An unreasoned, unjustified, like you said, unjustified offering of a conclusion.
Yeah.
It's not even fucking justified. What the fuck? Yeah. You could have said that because we're not Catholic. You might as well. Right.
Yeah.
What the fuck's the difference?
And I'm sure there are people who believe such things.
Right. I'm an atheist. The reason there's more people killing themselves because we're atheism. We need to get back to traditional values. I mean,
that's right.
You get my point is, to me, even if the stats were correct, which they were not, they were misrepresented. Then on top of that misrepresented was then used to justify some nonsense thing that had no justification.
Yeah.
Seriously, bad thinking. And she gets a book for this and is on TV. I need to be on fucking TV. What the shit?
Yeah, that's right.
But I know I talk too much about facts. So
no, that's right. It's not inflammatory enough. It's too.
But you know what's weird? Don't you think I do touch? People say that I've had someone say that before. Damien, you stick to things that are not that inflammatory. Seriously, I attack government. I attack all politicians. I attack prisons.
It's got to be inflammatory, but it can't challenge the status quo.
But I do in a sense, right? I say we shouldn't have death penalty. We shouldn't be going to war. We should give land back. I think I'm extremely inflammatory. I talk about trans people having rights, about trans people should be allowed, and intersex people should be allowed to play in sports. I mean, tell me when I attack masculinity. Tell me what topics I supposedly don't do. I attack culture.
But again, it also has to reinforce the status quo.
Oh, that's it. I'm against all that. Yeah, okay. I'm like, I'm right. Right.
They'll never have the anarchist on their morning Joe talking about how masculinity is actually useless and dumb anyway.
And how we should really just be good people.
That's right.
Yeah. And however ways we express that, but healthy ways. Because right. And so anyways, we'll talk about that next time. And
sounds good.
I already feel a little better venting a little bit.
Well, that's good. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I haven't felt that like pissed off in a little while. So, but I do something about it. And you and me are going to tackle it, and so we're gonna, address shit that should be addressed. Yeah. Which is why I do appreciate you. Like you said, you don't get to do that much as an anarchist. I don't think that an anarchist has to do that much. I do think that it means that we understand the problem. So there is, in a sense, an ethical obligation to do something.
Right.
But you do a lot. So I feel like you're feeling like, well, I don't do enough. Like,
yeah. Well, that's kind of what it's been like. I spent this last 3 months, like working so much overtime and just working all the time. And I mean, that's important. My family needs the money and, the things that come from that. But I feel like I haven't been able to put as much effort into what my passions, changing the world, improving things, whatnot. But yeah.
But I'm just saying, also realize that you do stuff, and you are appreciated for doing that stuff.
Well, thank you for saying that.
So it's not. I'm just saying that. Also, I feel like it can be a capitalist ethic, which is not a real ethic.
Yes,
and
yeah,
that is that we always have to be doing shit.
That's true.
With the anarchists, to me, should be allowed to do fuck all.
Yeah, sometimes you're allowed to just do nothing. That's right.
What the fuck? There's no ethic for taking. I mean, they call it relaxing or vacationing. You know, you just mean being lazy, which is a great thing. Whoever fucking said that you shouldn't do that? I mean, if there's a point of your family can't eat, then that's a problem. Yeah. But I mean, you should be able to. Literally thinking you should be working all the time is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially when your worker value is higher than you're being paid.
That's right.
Which is always the truth.
Which is always. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
But so I'm just saying. So then So you are, and here's the other thing too, Cory, which I appreciate about what you do, and I share a lot of your stuff because sometimes I think that people think that only one way will work. I don't think only my way works. In fact, I'm an anarchist. That's why I think that a lot of ways work.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I know you don't have to. In other words, you don't have to have the everything perfect, but it just don't. Life is literally not like that. And if we all start with the ethic of, like I said, like my how I do ethics of the moral love and moral fear. In other words, caring about injustice and then caring about care. Mm-hmm. Of how we apply our ethic concerns, balancing them where appropriate.
Yeah.
Like reason and evidence, should lead us into that. Like I said, how old is the person? Let's just say that they're 30 years old. And then I go, well, and they have Down syndrome or they have, been some other thing, or they were, threatened, or, what I'm saying? You start adding all these other things. Yeah. That's what I'm saying about logic and saying things. You can't just go, well, I just saw the one thing, so that's what's true. And literally, that's not how you should be figuring that out. You get what I'm saying? So
for sure,
it takes that more finesse of thinking. But then again, if you look at like psychology books, they call it moral reasoning. It's our ability to think through all that and realize also that you should try to think through it. You shouldn't just make I feel, I do, decisions. That's not really the great way to come up with truth or ethics.
Yeah.
All right. Well, everyone, I appreciate your time, and go ahead, Cory, and tell us what you're doing and who you are, or where to find you.
Well, check out the Skeptical Leftist podcast and YouTube channel. I'm at Skeptical Lefty on Twitter. I'm the Skeptical Leftist on Collectiva. I'm what's my Threads handle? Anarchy in the SK on Threads. So yeah, I'm all over the place. Check it out, guys.
Right on. All right. Bye.
See you later.